Sweet.
Awesome. You excited?
Yeah.
Game time. All right. And hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Monoxide Podcast, the show where we go beyond the meat. Oftentimes, when we go to a car show, we only talk to people for just a few minutes before we're taken away, get distracted, shiny object syndrome, whatever. This is how we have a more long-form conversation. Today we have Jacob Stevenson, a.k.a. I don't know how to describe you, owner of GoldenPeaks Productions, man of many MP4 files.
Yes,
I don't know.
That'd be good. Lots of MP4 files.
Yeah, no, I remember when I got my stuff back when you guys filmed my rally, it was like, I want to say like a terabyte of footage or something like that.
That's nothing. 1 terabyte is small.
Yeah, so usually how I kick these off is just kind of tell us a little bit about who you are. A lot of people know you within the scene. You've made, honestly, in the last 5 years, your growth has been astronomical. So just kind of give us a brief overview of who you are. We'll kick it off from there.
Well, I'm glad to seemingly grow.
Yeah.
My name is Jacob. I own GoldenPeaks Productions. It started as a passion project in college, I guess, a name that I could create college work under, that then I would have like this portfolio that I could show employers and look at like this fake company that I made, and you want to hire me, right? Then I realized people paid for videos, and I always have not liked school.
Okay.
So I quickly I would go to car shows in I think I bought a 99 323i E46 manual for super cheap with a lot of miles, and I did a lot of burnouts and tore the subframe out. But that was the car that got me into like the car scene with my silly little Nikon like D3200, trying to run video on a photo camera, and just made stuff and got in with M and BMW, which was like the start of everything, I guess.
When was this?
2000. So I would have gone to college in 2014. And the name kind of was around 2014, 15. I was just creating like fun videos in school.
Okay.
They are very bad, but it's where you got to start. And then I got a letter from school saying that my GPA was not good enough to continue, and I had to do summer school if I wanted to come back to school. And I was like, well, how about not? And so I tried. People were paying me for videos, so like, let's see what this is.
So at this point, how much were you, I guess, because this is before inflation.
Yep. Yeah.
So 2014, 15, I mean, how much were you making to justify not going back to school?
Not enough.
Yeah, not enough. Were you at least in 4-digit range a month?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I think so I registered the LLC September of 2016. Okay. That's what I call my start date. That was like, at that point, I needed to get a job and figure out how to build a career without going to college. I needed to go to college and finish and get a job. Or it was GoldenPeaks.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like my starting point. And at that point, like, I had dated my now wife since high school. And so she was always very supportive. Like, hey, you've moved home. Your parents are very helpful in that. And like, let's see what happens, basically, right? So I always had a lot of support, and I was like, well, let's see what happens. It just kind of kept snowballing. So I think
that's not that long ago, dude. 2016. Yeah. Holy shit. Because like I got to
well, it's not 2016 doesn't sound very long ago, but when I think about like I've been around for 7 years,
which is a
lot,
and
I'm still a nobody, let's say, right? In the world of like content creation, GoldenPeaks is small. Which is
like the reason I say that is because I met you guys in 2018, which is when I got into the scene, when I did Crown South. And I talked about this a little bit on the last episode with Eric, where that's kind of when I broke into the scene. That was the dream, was to work for Crown as a new kid on the scene. So it's like, to think you started your LLC 2 years before I cracked on, like it's a lot of work that you've done since then.
Yeah, it's been a lot. And I mean, it all... Are we good?
Paranoia. Yeah.
It's okay. Do you want me to look at this one?
No, you're good. You're good.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it's good.
I see you.
Yeah.
Like, I know how that feels. Like, you get to the end of your job and you push stop and it starts recording.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, man.
Well, I just did a time lapse on accident. So I'm about to drop episode 2 of Swapping Keys. And thankfully, it was just a backup camera, like a secondary camera. So it's no big deal. But it was I had a GoPro facing forward and turned out to be a time lapse. I'm like, no fucking way.
we have to do a lot of editing. All right, we don't have to, but we do a lot of remote editing for YouTubers, right? And sometimes when they first get their first GoPro and they're learning how to use it, they'll be like, oh, we got this awesome like POV driving scene, right? And I had to get it in my mouth or on my head or whatever, and I'll get the clip and it's a time lapse, and I'm like, guys, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but It's not video.
Yeah, the first time the first time I drove this car, the car that I currently have, my GTI from Kyle Statsman, Hardway Learning. He's been on multiple crowns. Our first video was like the meet the owner or whatever. So basically, I drive your car and then make you have a heart attack. I almost put that car in a tree. But it was a time lapse, so we had to go back and re-record it.
Dang.
Yeah.
And like react and everything.
Yeah, like, oh my God, my first time driving a Volkswagen.
I've never done this before.
Yeah. So okay, I'm actually curious because I think we talked about this before. So how many like YouTubers do you have that you work with? You don't have to name names, but
I have 2 right now.
2?
So at like the height of it, and I guess it all goes back to the beginning of, I wasn't really interested in editing other people's content. In fact, I was the kind of video creator that was like, I would have corporate people call me and be like, hey, we have this, footage of a demo and we need to create social ads. I'm like, no, not interested in editing other people's content because I hated getting footage I had no knowledge about.
Yeah.
I have to actually sit there and watch it, because it's one thing to like do selects on footage that I shot or a project I shot, but to do selects on someone else's and then have to make something out of whatever they gave me, which is probably not how I would have shot it. I always hated it. But then we met this kid named Jimbo in 2019 from Savage Garage.
Yeah, yep.
And that was kind of what changed it all. He ended up being on that one rally, one of Crown's South rallies.
Yeah, that's the one I was on.
Yep. And then they were on a Corsa rally that same year we did it. And then they decided to launch the first public Savage rally because they had done cruises prior. And so they hired us to do that. And through all of that, Jimbo kept saying like, oh, I need another one of me. I need someone who can just edit so I can do all these, because they built their whole channel around rallies. Those first 2 years, they did a ridiculous amount of rallies. So he could never edit unless it was through the night, which is never fun. So I was like, why don't we edit for you? And then that was, I guess, kind of the beginning of like scaling Golden Peaks too, because I used basically, if I could lock Savage Garage into like an annual contract of X amount of dollars, I don't really have the capacity to do it myself, but now that's guaranteed money. So then I hired my first guy, and I used that to then get Grant was first hire. And then when we would do projects, my second shooter, which typically you hire freelancers, so whatever their day rate is what you pay them. But now I had an employee on payroll. So then when we go do projects, that second shooter becomes net profit for the company, because I can still charge industry day rates because that's what you do. But he only costs me X because I have to employ him 12 months of the year instead of per project.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I always think about who's going to be my first employee.
Yeah.
Like one day for as Monoxide grows, and I've always told people it's going to be Trevor Scary, Shred Design.
Okay.
He's over at Tint Pros.
Tint Pros. You're going to take him from Tint Pros?
If I can get to the point financially where I can, first of all, I got to pay myself. Let's make sure I can do this.
You and me both.
Yeah. But I've always said he'll be employee number 1. We'll see if I stick to that.
Yeah, sure.
But you never know, dude. That's
You'd be surprised. I thought I had like employees by friends who I kind of grew up filming with, like numerically picked out, be like, oh, when I can afford you, you'll be my first call.
Yeah.
But then Grant was a lot like me and kind of went to college and was figuring out what he wanted to do. And he was doing a lot of home construction, like renovation stuff, really good at it. And he's like, I don't want to do this forever. And I was like, well, do you want to try video? Like, just humor me. Do you want to learn video? And if you can, I believe video is something that's teachable.
Yeah.
And so is photography, in the rudimentary sake of like the labor to do it, if that makes sense. Everybody has a different creative eye though. So things that I shoot, Grant might not see. Things that Grant shoots, I won't see.
Yeah.
But when it comes to editing and kind of building out something, it's pretty trainable.
To be better than 90% of photographers, all you have to do is rule of thirds and just rotate it. That's literally all you have to do to be a really good photographer. And maybe not deep fry your photos.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I had a bad couple months of doing that, but we don't talk about that.
That's okay. We all start somewhere. When I look at my first stuff, it was like I didn't know what picture profiles were and I didn't know anything. And so it's like you would just get your baked image of real colors and then you try and put a LUT on it and it would be way wrong, but you would try to like scale it around.
Dude, raw video is insane.
Oh yeah.
I started playing with that once I got this camera, and it's a game changer.
I thought S-Log was great, and then I had used Red on a few projects and I was like, this is amazing, but like it's unattainable. And now that we have Reds, I wish I would have taken the loan out sooner.
Really?
To like get into it sooner, because the power in post-production is wild.
So Red cameras. So first of all, how much is, you have multiple Red cameras, right?
Yes, I have 5, but I just sold one.
Just sold. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I always see you recycling gear.
Yeah.
How much does your most expensive camera cost? I'm just curious.
Do you want what I paid, or do you want like what factory? Like if you were to go to Red and buy it?
Ooh.
Because I'm cheap.
Did you get used?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything that Golden Peaks has ever bought has been used except the motor crane and maybe one of the Ronins.
Okay. So what is it MSRP?
So we have, my favorite camera is the Gemini. I think that's a lot of people's favorites. Now DSMC3 and all of their Dragon weapons, whatever names are out now, are better. But Gemini was the first, to my understanding, and I'm not a gearhead kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I understand the difference. And so the Gemini came out with like a low light option, which all of these Reds being Super 35 sensors were never full frame. So low light was never really great ever. And the predecessor, or the one right before the Gemini, was the Scarlet, which is what we also have, is now cheaper, but they were the same Super 35 5K sensor. And so that's what made them great. And then the Gemini came out, gave you the low light option. Gemini for the brain only was 25 grand when it came out.
Yeah.
And then you had to get whatever lens adapter you wanted, if it was PL or EF or whatever. Then you had to get the grips and the mini mags and everything that went on the brain to actually make it usable. So you'd probably be into a kit for like 30, 35.
Wow. Okay.
I bought all 5 Reds and accessories and mags and everything to make it plug and play for 35.
And you have how many?
5.
5 cameras.
But I sold one.
Yeah.
So technically 4. But my buy-in, so when I was planning this all out before production of Banging Gears, when we decided that this was going to be a Red production, like first TV show, I don't know what I'm doing, but like if we're going to do it, we're going to swing for the fences kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I just went in and I talked to a bunch of Red owners and figured out what I wanted. And this was the first project with the motor crane too, which is on the M3. So I figured I've had cameras fall off before. We'll buy a really cheap Red that can live on the camera car, which was the Raven. The Raven still is a great camera. It's a like 4.5K, whatever, Super 35 sensor. They all kind of share that base, but I bought it for like $1,600. And then all I need for that to run was a EF mount, which they come only EF for Canon lenses, and then some lens focus and a battery, and it just hung it on the gimbal. So that was a super cheap like entry, if you will. And up to that point, we ran Sony FS5s for it.
That's right. Yeah.
But that was such a bulletproof camera.
Do you want to talk about the first time of breaking a camera?
Yeah. So we kind of jumped way far forward, but we started early. You were talking about Crown Rally and how you were like stoked to get in that.
Yeah.
Crown Rally was like the start of everything for us too.
Yeah. Yep.
And so in 2015, they did their first event that was kind of like a close group of friends. Let's see if this is fun, to my understanding, is kind of what it was. And so 2016, they came out and was like, we're going to do a rally. It's going to be Minneapolis to Chicago. And I was at a Eurotech like barbecue end of season kind of thing at their new Brighton before Seth had opened all of his other stores. And then Jeff Storms from BMW kind of took me under his wing, which I'm super grateful for, and just like pushed me around. He's like, hey, this guy has a Lambo. This guy owns a company.
He is good at that.
Yes. So he pushed me in front of a lot of people, and like we all do a bunch of free work when we get started. So I was just down to film anything cool. One of those people he introduced me to was Justin, who was at that barbecue with Eurotech. And he's like, hey, this guy owns this rally. And I was like, what's a rally? He's like, well, these rich people, sign up, they get a route, they go to hotels, and they go to these experiences, and it's basically like a cruise, but on land in supercars, and it's catered to that kind of people. I said, sweet, they need
That's
marketing.
a new way of putting it. Cruise on land.
So actually, I kind of stole that from Amy Shackelford, who runs Gold Rush with Ramin, because we were just filming with her last week for Banging Gears. And in her interview, she described rallies as a I think she said like a land yacht cruise ship of that kind of people, instead of like, people just buy a cruise and they get on and they cruise. But anyways, so that was the start. Did my first Crown Rally for like $980. Brought 4 people and a car and paid for gas. So like I didn't make anything. But that was kind of like the start of it all. And the shots, like, that was the year they had the P1 and the Aventador and the 918. And I was like, when would I ever get to shoot this? I would do this for free, but I had to pay for gas and stuff like that. So
yeah, like me riding in the SVJ, it's like, when would that have ever happened?
Right.
Yeah, just
crazy.
Did you, I know Eric got to ride in the P1. Did you as well, or any of your guys?
I didn't, no. Yeah, so Eric was very kind, and Justin specifically wanted that shot of him in the P1 in whatever we were editing at the time, and so it was sick. I was always the kid in the my good friend Bruno Couch was also like Did you ever meet Bruno? He might have.
The name
left
sounds
before.
familiar.
So he had an Imola Red E46 M3. Was sponsored by like Bomiz or some exhaust company. Super loud convertible SMG, and he was always down to like get out and film. So I always called him when I needed a camera car because he could put the top down. I could just sit in the back seat with my gimbal, right?
Did you run straps back then or no?
Of course not. Of course not. So like on the rallies, I would be in the front passenger seat, and then you'd unbuckle, turn around, put your knees on the seat, and your heels underneath the dash.
Yep.
And then you could pretty much just hang out of the car and anchor yourself. And so that's what I've got a lot of old pictures of me hanging out and just looking
Yeah,
irresponsible.
I've seen some of those.
And sometimes I post them because people will be like, Jacob, remember way back when? And I'm like, yeah. But if I'd have died, that'd have been bad.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, that would not have ended.
That was a poor choice of words, but
Yeah, that would not have ended well. But that's the other thing. Like, I don't know about you, but I just never cared to get low when doing photos or whatever. Like, because like I'm very top heavy.
Yeah, so I was obsessed because like I think all of us, right, when we're getting into like the creative world, trying to figure out what our eye likes, and I just binge watched Crispy Media, binge watched Schwa Films, Halcyon, and Zwing Films was kind of something back then.
Yeah.
And it was Zach's style that was the original glide cam that was like manually balanced. He'd flip it upside down so the shots are all inverted, but now the weights are on the top and the camera's on the bottom. And then he'd roll his skateboard so that camera's like just scraping inches from the ground. And I always thought that was a wild perspective, almost like Forza-y video gamey, kind of like when you cross that finish line in slow motion, that camera's like...
Yeah, you had to get creative back then.
Right. And so that was always, I loved that look. And I just always like, oh, let's hang low.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. I always felt like it made cars look like monster trucks, at least photo-wise.
True. If you get it, like if you're too low and you're looking up, then it looks like they're
huge.
You
like
know?
Even an SVJ will look like it has a massive lift. Is that the? Oh, I thought you looked down for the FaceTime.
No. I was looking.
Yeah, if that FaceTime happens, we'll make it happen. So this is like 2016-ish, right?
Yeah, so that'd be 2016, 2017-ish. Crown Rally really was kind of like a stepping stone. Major. I mean, it put me in front of people who were later in life and wealthy and either owned a bunch of companies or owned cars that could film, which then naturally sparked conversations like, Jacob, you just like film and you make these cool videos? I'm like, yeah. Like, he's like, well, I've got a so-and-so shop and like I need commercials. It's like, let's talk.
So you started doing more work, because I remember you doing like something for like it was even Agave back in the day. That's like the first like video that I saw that was not car related.
Right.
And that was really cool to just see like you take that perspective.
So my now good friend Mike Welters, who works at 3M, is he's in the design center. So it's like 3M's internal agency that then creates all the marketing plans for products that they sell, and then they need to hire people to produce the work, basically. So I'm not an agency. I'm much more of a production house. I got an Instagram DM from him from a mutual connection of a kid that I used to film skiing, and his friend's mom was Mike's boss. And basically they had a shooter fall out for a last minute like color launch wrap film. And the Instagram DM was like, hey dude, like we don't have much money, but if you can make this for 3M, this will be a good gig for you. And I said, let's try it. And so that was late 2016 or early 17. First time I met AJ Meta, he had a GTR. We needed to put a wrap film on. Jake Bassett, do you know him? We wrapped his Mazda Speed 3. Then there's a pickup truck and something else. And again, pennies on the dollar, did that work. 3M was impressed, and they're like, hey, yeah, we got another color launch next year and the next year. And then that's just unfolded, and then people inside of 3M see the work that different divisions make, and they're like, I want my stuff to look like this. So long story short, the Sponge division, who sponsors Agave Kitchen, was like, we want to make a commercial here. And then Mike got picked to kind of develop the creative for it. And then I got looped in. And I was like, well, I know Paul because of the car world, but I also know Mike because of like 3M sponge work. And it was like this weird, even when I do corporate stuff, there's still some sort of connection back to the automotive industry, which is just wild.
I don't know why. I just thought sponges were always the same. This is a little detour. I mean,
apparently, my videos kind of look the same, but they're all different sponges in each video. But the idea was to cool. They were cooking in the fire and it was slow motion. And
I don't know why my brain's going down. Like you know when your brain just picks on something and just like zooms in on. Now I'm overthinking
it's just
sponges.
A sponge, man.
Yeah. But no, that's really cool to see like branch out, because like I was again talking with Eric. It's like like what percentage of your work is this, and like
Well, you want to know something crazy?
Sure.
Is this episode coming out after Eric?
Yes.
Okay. So Eric, if we back up even farther, right? Like 2008, 9, 10. In high school, I was like a freestyle skier, which is kind of where like the camera stuff started, because like you would film yourself doing tricks. You'd send it to like a ski brand and be like, "Can I have free skis? Because I'm so poor, but like here's a sponsor video." So that was like my introduction to cameras. But then there was always this coach of the freestyle team. Granted, he was a snowboarder, which is fine, but skiing is better. And he would take pictures. So I got to know him. It was Eric Bloom, right? So he'd take pictures of our comps, and then I get those photos. And then we became like Facebook friends and always followed him. I go to college because it was my understanding that he was like a freelance photographer, just always taking cool stuff, pictures and videos. And when I saw his video of what was Crown Rally and like his stickers were on a Ferrari, I was like, dude, what? Like, how do I do that, right? Like, I want to be the, and same thing with Zwing. He always had his like Zwing badge on the back of crazy cars when he'd be filming, so it's like a little Easter egg. I had to do a single cam project where I interviewed someone who was important or inspiring to me, and it was Eric Bloom. Like when I was in college, I was interviewing him, and I was like, just teach me, bro. Like, I don't want to be here doing this. I want to be doing what you're doing, but I have to film you talking about what you do so I can learn. So hopefully I can do it. And I mean, ever since then, we've just kind of been friends. But
the way you just said that, it was just, I can't wait to watch that back. That was so good. No, he told that story as well, how you guys like knew each other like back in the day just by chance.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, yeah, you guys just cross paths again, you know, via Crown Rally.
We've like our roads are like, we always know where each other are, and then we go like this.
Yep.
And then we're like, hey man, how's it going? And we go like this, and we go like this, and we go like this. And it was, I never really worked with him through MAP outside of, there's like a conference he needed some shooters for, and he kind of got in with Motocrane before he worked there full time, so we like crossed paths the night about a Motocrane. He was there, and I was like, bro, what? And,
yeah,
like he works there, and so it's pretty cool.
Just constantly parallel paths. I think I think Alec from Lux Detailing, like him and I are always like side by side, like always somehow we cross at some point.
At some point,
yeah, it's just freaking wild. Oh man, I'm trying to think where I want to take this. That was,
I don't know.
So
that
cool.
was, what are we, 2017, 18?
Yeah,
now?
17, 18.
So then you and I meet.
Yeah, that's what I was
did
gonna
we
say.
meet?
Is you know, Eric was to you as you are to me, kind of like you're nurturing that next generation.
Okay, I hope so.
Because he calls himself like a new OG.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm getting there because now we get all these kids. No offense, right? Like Jason Chun, but we get all these kids that pop up and they're so good, and they steal the spotlight. Not that it's like I'm guilty that it's being stolen, but the reality is that I need to charge money because like I have employees and I have mortgage, and like, you know, people around town just aren't always going to shell out livable wages for creating stuff, and I don't have the time to like just get out and create cool stuff, which is when I'm oftentimes envious of like this younger generation popping up. It's like they just, for like after school, they just like go out and they make some banger edit for Instagram, and I'm like, like I could do it too, but I run out of motivation, which is.
I think he's an odd one because like I started talking to him. So I was 18, he was 14. That's when he started.
Dang.
That's when he started, and that's when I introduced him.
Is he even 18 yet?
Dude, the second he turned 18, that boy turned into a menace. But that stuff, I'll show you some photos from the rallies that I got off air. But
Jason.
So no, I actually introduced him to Marcus Genslinger over at the Motorplex when he used to be over at Medina.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he introduced him to a bunch of people and all that. Like, basically, I was just like, this kid's good. I want to introduce him to everybody.
Sweet.
But I think he's got such a head start on it. So, like, whereas, like, if I were to start video today, I would not be as mature as he is. Because, like, he's in year 5 of video or whatever.
Yep.
So it's like he has that going for him. So he actually does charge a proper amount. It's not like he's doing a bunch of freebies.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of... I think that's part of it, though. It's like starting out, being a cheapo, learning your talent.
You have to, right? Because when you don't have a portfolio to show and you want X amount of dollars for a video, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why would I pay you if you can't show me what you can do, you know?
Yeah, I need more of a portfolio for my video
stuff.
stuff.
Of that. And I think I was that to Bloom, too, which, you know, I'm a very relationship-based person. So I value, let's say, collaboration over competition. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's certain things I like won't help people with because it maybe gives me an edge. Yeah. But I wouldn't not educate you to think the correct way or the way that I think. Correct. Right? If people are looking to kind of do similar things.
Josh did that with me a few years ago. So he took
Dynamic photo work.
Yeah. I want to get him on here. I remember he's like, when are we going to do a podcast? I'm like, we can do one next week. He's like, okay, maybe not that soon. I'm like, what the fuck, Josh?
It was same thing with me. You're like, you want to get on a podcast? And I was like, yeah, how about Sunday? It's like, the weekend, man.
Yeah. It's always, it's weird trying to coordinate from this side of the table. But yeah, he took me out to Dunkin' Donuts. We wanted to have a meeting or whatever, because like I was really popping up on the scene at the time, because I was shooting with like everybody. I was just starting to get into exotics at the time too, and we sat down. He was kind of like feeling me out, He's like, all right, what is this kid fucking just here just for temper? Because that's the other thing I feel out in the car community. Like there's especially in the last few years with like TikTok and stuff, a lot of people just pass through the community because they can't get attention anywhere else in life. And
I think, Josh and I have seen it because we'll text each other, be like, oh, we got a new person. There was, it might have been like 2020-ish. Some group of kids popped up called Golden Aspects Media. Never met them. But they kind of popped up and then took MNE&S by storm and like filmed all their cruises and all their events. And they were making some viral TikTok-y style videos before. It's kind of what the trends are now. And they were like Tint Pros used to hire me a lot. And now they hire Golden Aspects. And like Pristine Detailing kind of hires me. And now they hire Golden Aspects. And then they went to college and they're nowhere to be found. Like their Instagram page is dead too. Like, and it's really interesting to kind of follow that wave. And it's like, oh man, you were onto something. Like why? What was better than what you were doing?
Dude, seeing that from a perspective of an old head.
Yeah, but like when I watch people like you or Jason Chun, like you guys popped up, caught my attention. So I watch from afar because it's like, oh, there's things I'm learning from your styles of shooting, or there's things that like I want to see you develop in, and then when I get the job that I can hire monoxide photography, like I already know where you're at. But then when they kind of fade away, I'm like, oh, okay. But when they don't fade away, I'm like, oh, okay. Like keep coming, man. Like,
come here.
Yeah. Like I watch a lot of people. It's hard to think of all the names now, but like everyone that creates videos in Minnesota, we're a small world, especially in the car world. The
second somebody pops up, like there was somebody that did a video with like Jeff Storms and the Blue Aston and all this, like a couple months ago, right?
Sure.
Like not involved in the car scene, out of nowhere, creates this absolute banger. It's like a video like where you kind of go like into the eye or whatever. You've seen it. It went around a little bit, but
were they like in the woods driving a bunch of sports cars?
Yes, something like that. And it was a banger video. It's like, because like it's kind of like that, again, that viral style that's going around right now. And I fucking snapped when I saw that. I talked about this last episode too, but it's like I snapped because I'm like, this guy's really good. And he's been doing this granted, he's been doing other types of video work, but he did automotive stuff for all of 5 minutes and is kicking everybody's ass.
Yep.
So then I looked into everything, like all the animation stuff. For the next like 3 days, I was just going down this rabbit hole. So to your point, it's like, you kind of got to watch from afar. Like, because if you just sit on your ass too long, someone's going to come and take it.
It's and I think a lot of people, not that people are taking things from me, because there's enough work. I'm a firm believer that there's enough work for everybody, especially when we all have our own styles and like client bases. And the reality of like my scenario is like I don't shoot with many people from Minnesota at all, and I kind of miss it.
There's enough for everybody.
There's enough for everybody, and I kind of miss it. And I would even like bring out the camera car and like do stuff for free. The problem is like time management. Yeah. Right. And so a lot of the stuff that we're doing, which was really, I got focused on business, which is when I took in all those remote clients, and we can talk more about that. But then we created like nothing. We just created other people's stuff. Yeah. And I kind of lost that creativity bug, because I used to like, I don't have anything to do. I got bills coming up. I got nobody paying me. Let's just go film something because it makes me happy, And so I'm kind of back in that scenario now, but it's winter time, and so I have to get creative. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
I'm a firm believer that it's just the scarcity mindset. It's so dangerous, dude. Because then you start building walls around yourself. Yep. And at any point, somebody could come just through that wall, like the Kool-Aid Man, and fuck your shit up. That's how I see it. Because like,
they either come through the wall and it's like, whoa, you just took a client from me or whatever. But if you didn't have that wall up and you're having conversations about maybe I do something better, or I have a tool that you don't have, and we work together. There's so much work that I get that aren't my projects. Yeah. Just because I want to have the conversation and I want to know what people are filming and shooting. Not because I'm trying to learn and steal, but trying to learn and then maybe say, like...
adapt it.
Right. Adapt it, or like, not everybody has a motocrane, and I'm trying to push the motocrane thing really hard. And it's like, how about instead of you renting a minivan from Hertz, I come out for free and just show you what this arm can do. And then we get these crazy shots that now their clients like, we have to have that every time. They're not going to buy one. So then we build this relationship, and now they work with us. Stuff like that happens a lot.
what's it called on the Josh front, because I want to make sure that I clarify that so it doesn't get come across in in a weird way. But yeah, like back then, like it kind of felt like, I don't know if you ever meet with like these young up and comers often. But
I try
like,
to.
But yeah, it kind of felt weird being on that side of the table, because like I was just kind of like, this guy's trying to scare me away. I'm gonna I'm gonna fuck your shit up. But because like again, I was like 18, 19 at the time, so like your testosterone's way the fuck up here.
Yeah. Like, no, I can do it too.
Right, exactly. But like the conversation kind of went like this. It's like, because like obviously you get to drive your client's car sometimes, really cool stuff, and then he's like, well, what happens when you fuck that person's car up? And I'm like, I don't care.
Don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't think about it. Later problem. But like the big thing that he was kind of hammering home is like, are you getting paid for these? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting paid a little bit. I think I was making like $100 a shoot at the time, pre-inflation.
Which is great. I mean, when you're starting, like, dude, to show up and work for a day doing something you like for $100.
Yeah, exactly. And I also did it differently compared to everybody else, because everybody else has like 65 locations, and I'm like, I can't do that. That's more of a video thing than a photo thing. True. But he just basically was kind of making sure, and I think this is kind of where we have the responsibility for the next. I was like, hey, make sure you're actually getting paid a little bit, because like when I first started, I was splitting $30 with Nathan Morrison.
Sure, yeah.
And then it was $50 and $100. Yeah. But that's how that conversation kind of went. So I just wanted to clarify that like it was a good conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
But from a young perspective, I was just like, this douchebag. But now that I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near the level you guys are. But
I don't even know what level we're at.
Yeah, the absurd level. But like now that I'm more experienced and I actually have a bit of a client base, it's like, okay, I could see what he was saying back then.
Yeah,
just comes with experience.
Well, and it does. Like, I guess my mindset was so naive at first, because it's like, I don't know. This guy wants to make a video, let's go make a video, and something happens, and then something else always happens because I posted something cool, and now it's like someone else is talking to me now, and that just snowballs. But eventually you do get to the point where it's like, I have to make X amount of dollars, otherwise I will not pay my bills. And if you can't pay your bills, then I become like rigid sometimes, and it's like, I won't get out and I won't be creative because I'm not getting wined and dined with the budget I want.
It's like a feedback loop.
Right. And it's like this weird, and then you'll get trapped and not make money for a while because you won't take cheap work. But then I need to remember, like, cheap work or free work to be creative is how it all started.
That's one thing that I struggle with, because like I want to, like, especially when I go to like I went to SEMA, right? Like by day 2 I had to basically remind myself, like, hey, nobody out here knows who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
So like I had to kind of go back into my old mentality, like, all right, look at the Instagram tags and tag them afterwards. So I haven't edited any of the photos yet because I'm a lazy piece of shit. But
oh, come on, man.
But I'm gonna basically edit them, tag the owners. It's like, all right, cool. Now I got friends in other states. That's how I started, dude. I'm sure you did too. It's like, find out who
and I gotta say, I don't know how you did it, but when Monoxide came out on Instagram and you would get like 4,000 likes a picture and you had like 20 followers.
So many people thought those were fake.
Who is this kid? As I was just like, what is happening?
So a little bit backstory on that. So there's actually some people that think that my followers are fake and all that sort of stuff, which...
Are they?
They are. But...
Okay.
So here's
I wasn't expecting you to say yes.
Here's what irritates me to no end, right? So I had a video go viral, the Bugs Bunny video. So before that went viral, I had 6,000 followers. Okay. Mostly real. Like my story views were pretty normal.
Yep.
This is right after Instagram absolutely slaughtered photos.
Yeah.
I remember my last photo that went viral was the Viper at the gas station. It got like 7,000 likes.
Jeez.
Insane.
I've never had a photo ever on Facebook or Instagram get more than maybe 3,000 likes.
Yeah.
And that was like with Alex Choi.
Yeah.
And like that's like 3,000 likes is reasonable for someone with 10,000 followers.
Right.
But I was just watching your photos and I was like, how?
So I kind of figured out like my own formula, which doesn't matter anymore because Instagram slaughtered it. But yeah, well, actually, I messaged Justin a few years ago. I think he actually ended up taking my advice. I literally gave him a list of hashtags. I'm like, hey, use these. Let me know how it goes. And then, pew!
And they went off.
Yeah, it went off. Like it was like double or whatever most of the time. But so, anyways, what happened is I was at beginning of the year, literally beginning of this year, I was at like 6,000
Yeah, I remember watching your climb.
Yeah, yep.
You were putting it on your stories, and I was like, what's going on?
The fuck, yeah. So I was at 6,000 followers. I put that Bugs Bunny video up, and then also the Corvette E-Ray video. That one only got me like 1,000 followers, but it was real followers. The problem with the Bugs Bunny video, though, is it got me a shit... Like, it did all right in the States. From like 6,000 followers to 14,000 followers, I actually got like an American audience, some UK, whatever. So those were mostly real, I'd say. The problem is the second wave from 3 million to 6 million views, I got a shit ton of Brazilians and Iranian followers out of
Weird.
nowhere. So, and obviously, the problem with Instagram is there's so many fakes. I don't know how it works or what, but it was a huge influx of, again, real followers. But
Well, it's because they got these farms across seas.
yeah.
Right.
So there is a lot of them that were real, but like when you go through, it's like fake, 70 following, like anybody who's following 7,500 accounts is fake. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even care if you're a real person. If you're following more than 2,000, I remove you as a follower.
Dang.
Like, it's just so time consuming, so I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
But anyways, that point being, it's like, and even if they are real, they don't care about my other content. They
Yep.
came there because of the Bugs
The
Bunny
one
shit.
video, yeah.
And they want more stuff like that, but that's not who I am. So that was a big F up on my part. So it's like I only get like 200 views a story.
Hey, but you look legit.
I do look legit, and that's the thing. But that's the thing. It's like I used to get way more business through Instagram.
Sure.
Now it's mostly through Facebook.
Yeah.
Which is, I choose my followers on there, but it's such a bummer because like I used to have a little more validation for myself through that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's like I don't.
Yeah.
I love doing this more because now I actually get views through the podcast highlights.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't
Did
know
these
how
go
we
on
get on
YouTube too?
Yeah,
Are you
YouTube as
playing
well.
with YouTube?
Yeah, I'm playing with YouTube. Actually, so one of my dude, I love it when my listeners reach out asking me if I know about something because most of the time I don't.
Yeah.
They just assume I do.
Yeah.
So somebody reached out yesterday. He's like, "Hey, did you know you could basically tag?" Or he's like, "You probably already know this, but you could take your shorts and then you could attach them to the full length video." So I found this out. So if somebody watches a highlight of this, then they could go directly to the full video. And I'm
Nice.
like, that's
Okay.
like
Smart.
coming from a sales role, I guess, before I jumped into this full time. It's like it's a numbers game, right? Like if you get 1 million views, if 10 of them become regular listeners, that's huge.
Yes.
So
Yeah. What do they say? I don't even know if it's accurate anymore, but like 10% interaction rate, like followers per interaction on Instagram is like considered successful. But I think I think I track it like 2 or 3%.
oh, it's probably even less than that because like I
Yeah.
just had I was managing the community page during SEMA and I posted
Okay.
the GTR burning down or whatever.
Yeah.
Which that caught. I actually had Fail Army reach out to me
Nice.
to license the video. I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, fucking license it. Let's go.
Yeah.
If this makes me money, score.
How much did you make?
Huh?
How much did they pay you?
0 until somebody. So the thing is that they're kind of like a middleman.
Sure.
I'm not sure if they've ever reached out to you, but it's kind of like I got a text. My dad got a text actually. I don't know how the fuck they got his number. This goes back to the whole data reselling thing.
Yeah.
But they reached out via text, and I was like, all right, this is weird. And I made sure they were legit. But basically, they ask for the video, you put it on their website with giving them the licensing rights, and then maybe they use it. Because like they work with like
Right.
all the big like news networks.
And then are
shit.
you paid like a monetized split based on views?
I believe
Instead
it's a
of
60% split from what they make.
Okay.
So it's like when you think about it, right?
It could be good, but it could be bad, and it's no sweat off their back if it does nothing.
Right, and it's like for me, it's like whatever. I still
Yeah.
get to use it on my platforms
Yeah.
because like I talk about this a lot with Daniel Balto. These advertising agencies or not agencies, platforms like Facebook and Instagram, right? Like they pay fractions of what they make. Like if you pay $1,000 in ads, they pay you maybe like $10 worth of that.
Right.
Just crazy.
It's nuts. The same thing with YouTube monetized views. Like for every $1 a creator makes, Google made like $7 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. So I actually just had Motion Auto TV on the podcast as well.
Nice.
And he was basically talking about like, dude, like YouTube, like, and granted, you can still make a good chunk of change, but
Yeah.
like it's a fraction of what it used to be.
Is that episode out?
Yeah, it's out. It's episode
Trevor?
51. Yeah, Trevor. Yep.
I was just in at his shop a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that's right. For Banging Gears.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And his.
I have to listen to that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was surprised how long that one went because like I did 4 podcasts in a day.
Nice.
At SEMA. From 8 to 4, dude, it felt like a day
Did you
job.
just have a booth and people came up to you, or how'd you do the podcast
No.
at SEMA?
So I got to thank Daniel Balto from Community on this one. He set up 3 of those 4. So he set the one up with Nick Carloso, Rob Hoover from Monster Energy,
Nice.
and then who would he set up? CJ Motorsport. But I managed to set up Trevor because like Charles, Charles, C4 Productions.
Yes.
Yeah, so he kind of managed to hook that up. So
Yeah. Charles is awesome. I got to know him. I met him briefly at Banging Gears because he was out there shooting with
Correct.
Trevor. And then when we were hanging out at their shop, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, super cool guy.
Yeah, that's super.
They're
It's
all
freaking
cool
awesome.
guys. Yeah.
Dude, I gotta go
Trevor's
through.
shop is my kind of shop. Like if I was a clean and organized person, my shop would look like his. And it's clean and it's perfect and everything's in its place. And you got these nice cars that are well built, but they're showy, but they also perform. And it's like this great mix.
I'm excited for them because we talked about a lot of cool topics on that show because like they're trying to figure out what direction to take the channel.
Yes.
And especially in this new climate, because like that's the thing. Like every few years, I feel like social media and like what does well and what makes you money changes, but you also got to stay genuine, right? Because the second you stop being genuine, that's where everybody stops giving a fuck.
Yep. So that's when it's over.
That's when it's actually over. So they're kind of throwing around ideas to basically, just make that dream work, dude. Like it's really cool. So I'm actually going to be helping my future. I'm not going to announce that, but
future what?
Mail order bride.
Okay.
No, I'm going to be helping some people locally, like kind of get their channels off. Because there's a lot of people locally that have a kick-ass personality. Like awesome. They just don't have the, what's it called? Like the editing mindset, like how to make a video look cool, be interesting, all that, which is getting easier by the day.
It's getting easier by the day, but the viewers have a very high standard of what they will and will not watch.
Like Whistling Diesel, right? Like every video is a high production now.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Yeah, so it's like, there's a threshold for bullshit now.
Yeah, like imagine sometimes I just think about the days of like Vine. You remember Vine and how terrible the videos were, but they were like the greatest videos ever.
Yeah.
Or like early YouTube, like where's the chapstick? Like it's the worst video on the internet, worst like framing, lighting, filming ever. But those are like some of the best videos. And now viewers don't have the patience or the care to watch anything that doesn't look like it's had some thought put into it.
If it's like 720p, game over.
Yeah, and it makes it so hard for creators to just stay on top of it, to be producing their best when you have people, and there's some exceptions, like I would say the Stradman or like Doug DeMuro, right? They're just shooting on, Doug's shooting on like a dad cam, right? And it's like
Doug DeMuro's a fucking legacy channel, dude.
Yeah, it's just one of those, like he's kind of beat the algorithm because he's so big. Same as Strad, whatever they post, they're gonna get views.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I was talking to Trey about this downstairs before he left here at Ratified Motorsport. Sponsored by this location. But talking about like I don't know if I have that vlogging capability.
Sure.
Like
it's an acquired thing to learn, and I learned a lot working with Savage Garage for 3 years.
Okay.
And it was like everyone's like, Jacob, you should vlog behind the scenes Golden Peaks. Like you get to go and see and do cool things. It's like, yeah, that'd be fun, but I don't want to film myself filming a client work.
Yeah.
A side of me has always thought that vlogs feel immature.
Yes.
When it is maybe it appears that way, but there's a lot of validity behind having an audience that wants to know about who you are as a person or a company. But you have to be careful about how you like present yourself, right? Because like when I work for 3M, anyone in 3M is not going to care whatever I've done behind the scenes to get this crazy shot. They just want the result.
Correct.
Right. But then when the reality, if you know me, I'm a child. And so the vlogs are not professional, right? But they're fun, and so the people who know me, they love the vlogs and they could care less about the work. So it's like this weird fine balance.
It's tough. I started hanging around people who are off the radar, right? And I'm sure you've seen this. Like a number of your clients are probably like low key, don't care for social media. I don't know if you get that, but the thing is like I get to be around very, I don't want to say special people, but like low key individuals, who have collections you will never see in daylight or whatever at car shows or whatever. Yep. But the reason I'm able to be around them is because I'm not over there fucking vlogging everything they do.
Right. And I think that is the fine balance you have to realize is, in my experience as a third party watching how Savage Garage was conducted in some circumstances, certain relationships were not willing to like allow them to come and hang out because they know that whatever they're doing is going to get spun for content. Whether good or bad, right? Some people are just private people and they don't want their cars out there, and some people don't want to get involved with maybe like the hoodlum stuff that goes on, that then the police get called and there's your viral video,
Which is that's something I'm actually trying to cultivate with this podcast too, because like the last thing I want is for a clip to go viral, and then people are scared to come on.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if I mispronounce this, which granted, you know, that guy was chill with, but like, it's like if something comes off wrong, like, so that's why when I do the highlights, I do it with the absolute intention of making the person look as good as possible.
Yeah.
Or in a way that they can at least defend themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse for some people, at least, not me, but like being in a position where you can't defend yourself on the internet.
Yep. Just gotta be careful about what you say, you know?
To a degree, right? Like, because like, I'm not in a position where I'm worried about it because most people know I'm fucking around.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that, you know, I do want to have high profile guests and stuff, you know, such as yourself, to where I'm not scaring people away.
Yes.
So the same thing applies to like the vlog style. So I don't know if I really care to do that. I don't know.
I have an inner struggle. Like if you were to go to YouTube and search Golden Peaks BTS, you'll find our behind the scenes channel, which is virtually where I've dumped all the vlogs like random cuts of stuff. It is separated from just Golden Peaks Productions on YouTube. However, if you type Golden Peaks, the BTS channel will pop up first because like, I guess it gets more views.
Interesting.
But it's very like I'll go for like 4 months and post a lot of stuff and they'll do great for a small channel. But then I'll just stop because it's like I hit that point and it's like, okay, this maybe looks irresponsible or dumb or not professional. But it's like also I want people to know the outrageous things that we do to an extent to like for that crazy shot or like these experiences we have on rallies that are just like when you're sitting at Thanksgiving with family, like, so Jacob, how many rallies have you filmed? Well, I filmed a bunch of rallies. Like, what do you do? It's like, well, these guys just pay to sign up and ship their car across the country and we drive like 5,000 miles in 10 days and you just try not to get in trouble. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, just don't go to jail. They're like, what do you mean? You're driving fast enough to go to jail? And I'm like, no.
Maybe
not me, right? But the reality is you put 100 people in their supercars together, they're going to start pulling on the highway and say Mexico, whatever. But there's just a lot of, I call it guilty by association, right? And we just happen to get guilty because we're the ones with the cameras who have filmed it. And it's,
when do you start filming takeovers?
I this is going to sound really old, like I'm getting old and mature. But the older that I get, the less I care for like the hood rat street stuff. Like when we did the first couple years of rallies, I just couldn't believe the lawlessness. And I was like, this is so exciting.
Like a Kid Rock music video.
Yeah, it's just like put the windows down, drive fast and get your music going. And if you're the last one in the pack, you're the one going to jail. You know, like that was very much the mentality of like those early rally days.
Yeah.
And like, right, I'm not going as fast because M3s just can't do what supercars can do. But I also have cameras. So like, you know, if you looked at the footage that we got from your rally, anything over like 100 just gets shaky. It's kind of unusable. So at which point we'll kind of let that fast pack go on. But it's rallies. We didn't do any rallies this year, which surprised me. But the last year of rallying would have been 2022. They were much tamer, with the exception of Savage rallies, than all the previous years that I had been a part of, which I thought was interesting. In like 2017, 18, 19, it was like rallies were the thing.
It was hot.
And it was like people like David Lockhart. He did every big rally. And sometimes they would end and start in the same cities with two different entities. And he would just be like road tripping across America and people lived for that.
He ended up on ours too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for when we went to Pikes Peak. I'm surprised that they ended up on that one. Yeah, man. It's an interesting environment right now because we talked about this on last episode. It's so awkward having you and Eric back to back, but because it's such similar topics. But like, you know, Crown did leave a really big hole. You know, by not, I think we're coming up on a year not having events with them. So it's like the only person locally is Joey with G-Force, really. Cannonball, kinda. I think they had like 30 cars this year, 40 cars maybe. So it's like that. Between those two rallies, it's still a fraction of what Crown was. So it's like this big gaping hole. And then I guess I'm out of the business too. I keep forgetting about me. But granted, that was... I bitched enough about that. I'm not talking about that. But
when I did my first couple rallies, it's like, I could do this. I could host a rally. A couple years of rallying go by. I'm like, I don't know that I want to deal with the infrastructure of a rally.
Yeah, which I'm getting back in the game. I love it.
Nice.
I just made a few critical mistakes that resulted... I could have kept going. I just chose to let's take a step back, let something shake out. You know, I still got $5,000 on my Amex to pay off. But it's
don't
like,
we all?
yeah, for real. It's like just figure out what my next steps were. So it's not that I wanted to get out the game. I love the game.
Yep.
And I am getting back into
Yep.
it, which I'm not sure if I've talked about openly yet. I'll
Okay.
tune back in next week.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, but actually, I've announced I'm coming back. I didn't announce in what regard, but nonetheless, it's not that difficult to actually. Some people are gonna kill me for this. It's difficult to run a rally, but it's simple.
Yes.
Like the idea, the concept's simple.
I can understand the idea and the concept, and I think like the organization of creating something that I can't afford. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
To your benefit in the form of a business, right? Is very appealing to me, but just the things that I've seen on rallies are not something I'm interested in having that door of liability open towards me.
Correct.
Now people will say, but Jacob, you started a rental car company. But in my eyes, and it's maybe just because like everyone's brains is different, I feel like I can control the liability a little bit better in the form of a rental vehicle. Yeah. As opposed to what rallies
Which is the flip for me, right? Because I am absolutely fucking terrified of starting a rental car business. I just could not see myself being like, here, Jacob, put my GTI on Drivify.
Well, the joke, the joke is that when we started Drivify, that I am our worst nightmare as far as renters go.
That's fair.
Like what car would we buy that Jacob would get in and possibly crash? Okay, we shouldn't buy that car.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Just mostly because I'm the kid that will rent on Turo and get like an F80 M3 and then slide every roundabout to and from a project. And
why does that story sound familiar?
Probably because...
Who told me about that?
Probably because I had a Turo'd F80 M3 for the entire month of banging gears that I did an absurd amount of donuts and slides in with Jason Chun in the back seat.
Right.
Yep.
It was Jason that told me. He's like,
He's
that boy crazy.
Yeah. This boy wilded. And then I let him take it one night, and he left the Airbnb and just like floored it. And I was like, Jason, you're too young to be driving this hard, man.
You should see my brother, dude. Oh my God. Dude, okay, so I thought something was broken with my car because like he was going through like over here by like Bush Lake Road or whatever, like those twisties over there by the ski hill. He was ripping it, and his GTI is stock. Mine wasn't, but he was flying through those corners. So I'm like sitting here thinking, like, am I being pussy or is he faster than me? Like, what's going on here? Like, I can't figure this out. Right. But yeah, there's. Again, I think it's like that weird 18 to 20 window where I think
you have this like window of invincibility.
I think I looking back on it, I have it too. Like I give my brother crap for it all the time. He turns 19 on Saturday, and it's like I'm sitting here thinking like, there's that no fucks given window from 18 to 20, and I'm like, that's when you should start a business.
Yes, yeah, and I guess like if we talk about business and maybe how I decided to be an entrepreneur, it was more than like, okay, I'm not doing well in school, and I can move home because my parents are nice and very helpful, so I should see what happens, right? And in a lot of ways, I'm extremely grateful that I, not knowing it, took the leap to be self-employed at that age. Because if I had completed school, got a secure job, but wasn't happy or satisfied or whatever, and wanting to start something, I think it would be 10 times harder. To have to leave stability to start something would be terrifying. But all I know is like, hey, the clock's ticking. Like in 3 months, I'm out of money. Yeah. Like that's just how I've lived,
That's kind of where I'm at right now, because when I full sent it on this a few months ago, and there's some things I would talk about off air, but it's like I have an actual clock, and thankfully I thought that clock ran out in November, which I would have been happy with, but I still have about, I want to say 2 months or whatever to make it work. Because like I would love to do this full time. More so I want to, and the possibility of that is getting closer every single episode. For sure. For me, the ideal world is like if I want to go fly out to, let's say, I don't know, Ceramic Pro or something, and interview the CEO or something like that, or whoever. Like I want to get to a point where I can
help you make it happen if you want. I've got his number.
Yeah, I know somebody else who has their number. We will talk about that off air too. But a lot of off air comments today.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets in the automotive industry.
Well, for me, it's like, which is weird. Like I'm the best at keeping secrets, but I'm also the best at revealing them when it's time.
Yeah, sure.
Shouting from the rooftop. But my point being, it's like I want to get to the point where I can interview anybody in the country.
Sure.
And just fly out there.
Yep.
Because like I don't want to do a bullshit Zoom podcast. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah. It's better in person. I always like this stuff way more.
Well, it's like that 5 second or 5 millisecond delay from your computer to your monitor, then your internet and all this, like all these little delays. Like I cannot see the eye twitch in your eye that you're annoyed with me. You know,
Sure.
it's like,
Yeah.
laws of human nature.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I don't know how that got on.
Are you saying I'm annoyed with you?
No. But that's the other thing. It's like I can tell. Like, so there's two things. Like I've done this for however many hundreds of hours now.
Yeah.
So it's like a decent practice. But then I also watch it back too.
Yep.
So I could see when, and it's going to happen a lot when I'm editing this one, when I need to shut up. It's like, because you could
Cut
see
yourself.
Yeah, because like I have two cameras here. Like I can look back later and be like, oh, he wanted to say something there, but I cut him off.
No,
Yeah.
If you cut me off, it's probably okay, honestly.
Which, but that's the other thing is like, I've gotten to the point where I've practiced this enough. I can usually bring it back. It's like, all right, what did you want to say 54 minutes ago?
Right. Yeah. Restart. Well, my brain, and I'm sure while you're editing this, while we're talking about it, you'll notice that I hop around quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm great. You got a crazy brain. Like we'll probably in 20 minutes talk about something we should have talked about at the beginning. And I'm going to say the sentence right now. You should move that all the way to the front just so you have to edit it.
I don't edit that much. I don't edit. I basically try to leave this as unedited as possible.
Yeah.
Because like that's how conversations go on in real life. If you were talking at a car meet, granted, I think this podcast is like a combination of 15 car meets of different conversations.
For sure, it is.
So I guess if we were to go meet at the next car meet, I'd probably ask you how has it been going from place to place for Banging Gears the last few weeks?
We have been on the road. Today is November 15th. Mm-hmm. I think we left October 16th.
Jesus, that's impressive. Your right eyebrow really went high. Like most people can't go that high, dude.
I can't move my left one though.
Yeah, no, I'm bad at my left one too. But that's real. I was just watching the Dwayne Johnson episode with Joe Rogan. But anyways, continue.
Okay, yeah.
Distracted.
Oh, now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, so we've been traveling like last month.
Mm-hmm.
I took SEMA week off, so I was at home, but I sent Ben to SEMA, and so Ben's pretty much been on the road with me. Ben also works with me, and I couldn't do anything without Ben or Grant because I say yes to too much work, and then I fall behind. And it's kind of my culprit. I'm a bad time manager, but I'm also a yes man. And so a big project that we took just recently was Banging Gears, which was shot in February. A whole bunch of stuff happened. We captured a lot of great stuff. There's a little bit of a hiatus because we're figuring some things out in post, let's say. And now we want to kind of like reality TV show style. Mm-hmm. When you're watching it, you like see the person on set at the show talking. You see the person at their home or in their garage talking about something similar, but like it tells the story throughout the episode consistently, or with continuity, I guess.
Is it just a bunch of people saying, "I'll never financially recover from this"?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, whether you were involved in, well, I shouldn't say too much.
Yeah, choose your words carefully.
What was I going to say? We would never, I mean, all of us as car people will never financially recover from our decisions of being a car guy, but it's all about the memories, right? I mean, the things that we experience because of a car is wild.
Oh, it's crazy.
And so we're going to go down another rabbit hole. But before we get there, yes, we were filming a bunch of interviews for Banging Gears. And so all the season 1 drivers for the show were interviewed, sometimes 2 in a day, but oftentimes they were like a state away. So it would be like film 1 in the morning, get on a plane, get to the next state, film 1 the next morning. And we had 36 back to back, basically, with like 5 days off for SEMA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So every day you were back on a plane?
Pretty much. I got a lot of frequent flyers. And I really wanted to fly Delta for every flight, but some of them I had to do American. So I have an American frequent flyer now, so I can at least collect something.
I didn't hate
fly with them again, but
I didn't hate Sun Country at all. I did. That was my first time flying Sun Country with Community.
Well, I'll tell you what, for all the media people, Delta is awesome because if you have any sort of media badge, you can bring in any case that weighs 100 pounds or less and check it for $50, unlimited.
Okay.
Naturally oversized or overweight bags are $150 a piece, and then it like your first one's $150, your second one's $175, your third one's $200, right? But they have this media program, which is why I like Delta so much, that if you show them, and I could show it to you, but I photoshopped myself a media badge saying that I work for GoldenPeaks and has like a fake barcode on the bottom. That
cutting that.
Right. And so anyways, I'm like, yeah, media, like this is all full of cameras. And so like the motor crane will break down into 8 cases that weigh 98 pounds. So it's 2 pounds away from like that threshold. And then throw in a bunch of random cases. I'll check like 12 bags, $50 a piece. It's still expensive, but it's $50 a bag instead of $200 a bag.
So you're bringing the moto crane with you everywhere too?
I am not, but I could.
Okay.
I was just using an example.
Okay, I was
because I
about to
did a lot
say.
with Zach before he had a bigger team. I shot some stuff with Zach, and when Ultra came out, which would have been 19 and 20 or 18, 19, 20, we did some traveling, and it was like you can unbolt that crane piece by piece and put it into travel cases. Fly there, suction cup it to a vehicle, and then film, and then unsuction cup it and fly home.
So that would allow you to basically just go to Hertz, get a rental car, and
Yes.
turn it into a camera.
Make sure
rig.
that you purchase their insurance though, because it's about 400 pounds on the roof. And then imagine just like slamming on the brakes and that inertia and that like sheer force. I'm not a scientist, but like 400 pounds tilting forward into like a roof of a car is not strong.
All right. How did you find that out?
Well, let me tell you, in 2018, when Motocrane Ultra came out, Larry Chen got approached by Toyota to build his perfect GR Corolla hatchback, who then called Motocrane and said, I want to put your crane on my hatchback and make a camera car, right? We brought it to SEMA. We flew in, we suction cupped it to his Corolla. And we decided to chase Ryan Littoral on a drift track. And so then when we got off the drift track, there's a whole vlog on the Hoonigans channel and stuff. When you get off the drift track, the roof is just like, it's all crinkled and warped and dented. And like, it will only go so far because underneath like the A-pillars and that sheet metal, there is another thing that stops it. But you have like, let's say a 1-inch gap. Like if you touch the roof of your car, it goes like, duk, 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 like you could move it. It's just crumpled. But it didn't matter in this case because these were all like press cars from Toyota. So they get crushed a year later, whatever. And so that's how we found that out.
So much going on. I just for some reason thought you went to like Hertz and then just
No.
destroyed their shit.
So I've done the math a few times. Let's say 12 bags, $50 a bag. That's $600. Is that correct? 12 times 50?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, we invented math. It's okay.
I just have to know now.
12 times 10.
12 times 50, $600. Wow.
Yeah.
Homeschooling paid off a little bit. $600 one way, so $1,200 round trip. Well, for $1,200, I could put my M3, which has a welded rack and the crane already attached to it, on my trailer with a truck and drive to and from a job.
Yeah.
For $1,200. And then in that case, I get to use my car, which is wrapped and branded and built for aggressive driving. And it's just better. So that's kind of what I've always done.
How did the because you put the camera let me restart this.
Yeah.
So you put the entire camera rig on the McLaren as well.
Yes.
That was Alex Choi's McLaren, right?
Yes, so that was like version 2 of the camera car that we have now. So version 1 was version 0 is me hanging out of a convertible with a gimbal. We've all done that. Version 1 was I got a bunch of 2-inch conduit from Menards, clamped it to my 1 Series, and I bought this isolator from Rig Wheels called the Slingshot Isolator.
Yeah, I remember that.
Essentially, it was a plate of steel with 4 massive elastic rubber bands and then wires that like were also on all like 1 on each side, so 4 total. And essentially that created like the rubber bands wanted to pull upward, but the wires wanted to push downward. So you created like this vibrate isolator. And then I hung my Ronin 2 from there.
How well did that work?
It worked really well until it fell off. And then I drove over the Ronin 2 and the Sony FS5. And that was 2017 because it was right before I proposed to my wife. And I threw it all on the credit card because, so that was rental Ronin 2 and an FS5. And I opted to not get the insurance. And then my insurance didn't cover it because we ran 2 camera cars for that rally. So my camera car being on the front of the car fell off. I drove it over. I had to put a lot on the credit card to kind of like just close the account with Lens Rentals, move forward, work on paying that off. And then one night I was scrolling around on eBay. I had heard of this thing called the Flowcine Black Arm. And what it is like it's like your car's suspension. Almost think of like the back end of, I forget what they call the fancy suspension on race cars. But it's like you have the components.
Suspension?
Yeah, it's similar. So like it's based on weight, and you can adjust your spring rate and your dampening based on how heavy your camera package is. So you fix one side to something solid, which would be like the front of the camera car, and then you figure out how heavy your camera package is and hang it from the other side, and then you balance that arm would need to suspend parallel to the earth by adjusting spring rates and damping. And then that will articulate 20 degrees up and down to isolate the bumps from the vehicle. So that was version 2, and that worked great. I think we ran that for 4 years, and that's what we ended up sticking on the McLaren 2. Choice 720.
Yeah, it was, so you guys were filming the... Wait, what car were you filming?
So we shot the Unicorn version 4 reveal. So that was the version of his Huracan that was previously the Monkey Bar roll cage car. That was Unicorn version 3. Then that kind of like blew up and broke and was hidden for a while. He bought a OEM Super Trofeo Huracan body kit from Lamborghini from a crash car, got it fixed, and then fitted it to his street car. So it became the first street legal
I remember
Super
this.
Trofeo.
What was this, 2020,
This is
2021?
2021. And still just an NA motor. He hadn't done the full build that it is now. And we filmed that, got it revealed. The car went to SEMA with the Alex Choi's Unicorn wrap in a Zotek color. And then he twin turboed it, and now it's been internet famous since.
Did you guys also bring the camera rig to SEMA too, or no? Like with the 720 like setup, or no?
No. I wanted to. I would love to figure out how to do a SEMA booth. I have a few friends who've had booths, and so I've been trying to get in the know because I think it'd be cool. Unless there's a rule, and someone could maybe educate me, that SEMA would not allow a media vendor to advertise. I'm not sure, but I think that having the M3 camera car there at some point would be a smart idea, just for marketing reasons.
It's have you heard what it costs to get a booth there?
Yeah, I would estimate, like, for a small booth, like $20,000 a week.
Yeah,
just to kind of.
Which, I mean, when you think about it, like, you get 200,000 people in person to see your shit.
Like,
so
there's a good chance I would get $20,000 worth of work.
Yeah,
but like,
very likely.
I also would need a spare $20,000 to kind of gamble with.
Yeah,
you know,
only gamble with what you can lose.
Right.
Yeah, because like that's the weird thing about the car community too. It's like you plant these seeds, but you never know when you're gonna get something from them.
Yes,
like you can get something 5 years from now and be like, it's just so
happens
wild
all the time.
Yeah,
and one of the guys I really like that I met through Crown Rally, his name is Carter Kramer.
Oh yeah,
and he's one of those guys that, like, I met him year one when he bought Hawkeye Downs Raceway, and like Crown was there, and I was like, this is wild. And it's like this I don't know, commercial real estate investor kind of guy, sold a tech company and is playing with cars and property, and we got to know each other. And he had I think bought and sold a couple companies, and this last year 2022 on one of the last rallies we did together, he was like, dude, I bought this gun company, and like I've watched you the last 5 years, and all the videos you've made are like sick. I'm like, let's go make a gun commercial. And I said, sweet. Like,
is that the guy with the brown R8 that's like traveling Europe too?
No, he had the tank wrapped RS6 Avant.
Oh, okay.
And he has an R8. I don't know what color. It was green for a while.
Okay.
And a Porsche with like the crazy techno wrap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that wrap on the R6 Avant was sick.
Yes. Yeah. I think everybody knows the tank wrapped RS6. So that was easy identify.
Well, that was like when R6s were like super hot. I just saw one
brand
sold
new,
for,
and it's a rare one too.
Yeah, it's super rare, brand new, all that. I just saw one. Somebody sent me a Cars and Bids link today. One sold for $86,000 today.
Oh,
I don't know how that happened. I don't know. I'll have to look into the specifics of it. But it's like,
we want one for Drivify. I don't think it would rent well, but as a car guy, we want one.
That's fair. Well, you guys are big German car people. Or do you lean more Beamer though?
Oh, if Jacob could and would only buy one manufacturer for the rest of his life, it would be BMW, no questions asked. I know I don't really get like a hypercar experience out of that manufacturer, but
yeah, but do you really need a hypercar experience? You know,
a little bit. I need a Dodge Viper is what I need.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. You're
a Viper guy too, aren't you?
All day long. I
already have dibs on AJ's black ACRE, so don't even think about it.
Go for it. For me, my dream is either. I don't even want to say either. It's got to be striker green.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I care so much about the color as I do like it has to be the spec.
It'll probably be wrapped at some point.
Right. Well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've wrapped all my cars.
There's a few. Actually, no. Sorry, I misspoke. Pennzoil yellow. Like the reveal commercial.
Yep. That'd be great. So do you know Brandon Nider? He's done Crown Rallies and some other stuff.
What car?
Friends with Rob Ferretti. He's had the matte yellow with gray stripes Viper ACRE, the blue 675 LT, and the red 620R.
Okay.
Crown Rally guy. I also met him on Corsa Rallies, and he does Rob Ferretti's adventure drives. Anyways, we were at the Autobahn in Chicago, the racetrack, not Germany. And I was like, dude, like jokingly, can I just rip this ACR around the track? And he's like, yeah. I was like, no way. And it's like, dude, the ACRs on a track, like I thought they were great cars. I've driven a handful of them. But you put it on a track, I couldn't find its limit. And it felt like a cheat code. Like I had just gone into my, like plugged in my PlayStation 2 in my parents' basement. I was like up, down, left, right click, right bumper, left, trying to type in the code. And it was just like, it just wanted more. And I was just amazed by the car.
So AJ always talks about, it's really tough to choose between that and his old GT3 RS.
Yes.
And I asked him because like I liked the GT3 you guys have. I liked it a lot, but I wasn't quite in love it territory. And that's just because for a number of reasons, because I've been spoiled with speed, unfortunately. But it's like,
haven't we all?
I think I would enjoy that car a lot more on a track, because like the problem is like when I'm doing the Driveify series, which we could talk about too, but I don't really get to push those cars as much as like I really would like to, which is probably a good thing for renters. But
well, we have trackers now. I don't know if I should say that. It's probably common knowledge. Everyone who rents our cars should assume I can see everything you're doing.
That's usually how it goes. Yeah, which I mean, honestly, I don't think it'd be an issue unless they crash it, right?
Correct.
That's usually the only time.
Well, we have like, there's no legal issue with tracking the vehicle at all.
Yeah.
Especially when you sign our waiver, like you gave away permission for us to track.
Well, not necessarily that. What I'm talking about, like you wouldn't even capitalize on it being tracked unless something happened.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. And if we wanted to talk about everything that's happened, that could be another story. Back to cars while we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
So my kind of vehicle, we've all been spoiled by speed, right?
Yeah.
But my kind of experience is that of which like a Viper gives you a GT3 RS or a GT3, or like on a very poor man's scale, my E90 M3. And it's more or less a naturally aspirated high revving motor that it has a chassis built to carry speed and not build speed, if you will. And then learning kind of the threshold of grip and figuring out.
What do you mean build speed? I'm still.
So like turbo cars, GTRs build speed super fast. It's probably a very incorrect way to say it. But like there's a difference between flooring it and be like, oh my gosh, or flooring it and be like, oh, okay, there's 70, right?
Right.
But then being able to be just as fast on the track as a lot of cars because you're building momentum or carrying momentum.
It's tough.
I like that a lot.
It's tough to choose like what niche you want to go in, because like I've been hanging around Minneapolis Mopar a lot, so like I've been in his twin turbo Viper, and that's a very different experience compared to, let's say, I got to ride in like a 400 horsepower Z06 around the autocross track, and that was a different type of fun.
Yep.
But then I also got to ride in the RTR Mustang at SEMA, and that's another type of fun. So it's like there's really no one size fits all solution when it comes to cars.
There isn't, and it's like I think a lot of my cars would gravitate, like if let's say we all dream about being a collector one day, right? My garage would look like I would have that car that's just blisteringly fast. Maybe it doesn't corner well, but it's like the showstopper and it's the internet car. But then I would daily drive a GT3 RS or like a Viper ACR because those are sick.
Do you know who's doing it right? Have you ever met 458 Destroyer? I feel like
I haven't met him. Maybe in passing, but
dude, his freaking collection though is insane.
That
is
the
Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's the perfect collection.
Yeah.
Because he has everything from he's got an nth moto car. He's having a second one built right now. Sheesh. Then he's got Sheepies, and then these Ferraris he takes to the gym, and it's like just that he's got the ultimate garage.
Yep. Yeah, and I think we all dream of getting there. And since we were poking at Driveify a little bit, my main motive, I don't make anything on Driveify. In fact, Driveify is probably taking my money more than it is like creating me money. But as a business owner, I look to the future and what it could be if we can get to that threshold of like success. It's a very expensive business.
So I talked a little bit about this with Asa, which was literally 10 episodes
yeah, he was
ago.
on your podcast. I gotta watch that one too. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just started doing the highlights too for that one, so I'm gonna start uploading.
Can I drink another one?
Yeah, go for it. That's all you do. I'm completely cracked out on these Jocos right now. Just I've had a couple of them, but anyways, so he came on here just kind of sharing like, the pros and the cons of it and like what Driveify does. But I think speaking to the man himself would be even better because
I am one of 5 men. There's 5 of us.
Out of context, that don't sound right. I had to. But so
it's like that One Direction joke.
What's the One Direction joke?
I won't say it.
You won't say it. Okay, off air. I'm gonna get a sticker that says off air.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, for those of you that are just listening to this, so kind of explain what Driveify is and why is it different than Turo, or how does it compare to Turo?
So Drivify was started by car enthusiasts to create a rental experience or vehicles that are accessible by other enthusiasts, right? So I've always looked at like, oh, it must be nice. Like friends like AJ motivate me to have multiple cars, but you do it in a way that makes more sense than stroking checks out of your personal money to hit depreciation, or maybe you sell and break even on a good day. But turning it into a business, and with all the travel for video production, I always took to Turo to rent something nicer than Hertz. And oftentimes it's like M3s, right? Stuff like that, S4s. And every time I get in the car, I would end up striking conversations with the Turo host that I'm renting from, just like, what is this like? Like, do people really crash your cars or smoke weed or make them disgusting? Or like more often than not, are they fine? It's like, they're usually fine. But then they would explain that like one car doesn't make sense. 2 cars kind of make sense. 3 cars, you're getting somewhere. But when you get that car multiplier, that it's like, if I was doing it myself and I had 5 cars, 4 might be out, so I always have 1 to drive, and you're kind of, now these are generating money that's paying for themselves and something else that I want. And so with that mindset, I had called Treat on a trip in South Carolina while we were filming with Downforce Motorsports.
Treat from Platinum, right?
Treat from Platinum. I was like, dude, we could do this. Like, I can do video. You can bring some cars or give us shop space or whatever. And yeah, Jacob, I really like it. And so we kind of talked about it. This would have been 2020, like Thanksgiving time. Formed the LLC. Grant and Ben, who work with me for Golden Peaks, bought in for ownership, and then Teen's brother bought in for ownership. And we started Drivify, which this will be interesting, with the GT3 that we have now, the Audi A3, Silverado, and a Tesla. So we had 4 cars. Month 1, we did like $4,000. We're like, dude, no way. We don't. We owe money on the GT3 technically, and the Silverado, but like we broke even, and like we got 4 cars at our disposal. Like that's sick. So we bought a Bronco. And then that Bronco started kicking money, so we bought another car. And we were basically scaling year 1 as like, if we bought 1 car that cost $600, but then it was net $1,000, so it made $1,600, we go buy a car that fits within that $1,000 profit, and then that car will generate another $1,000. You're not necessarily increasing your profit margin, but you're increasing like the revenue across the business books. So year 1 was great. For those of you who don't know, Tian sold the GT3 to AJ. AJ bought the GT3. I hounded him for all of the summer of 2022 is when we started, I think. That was like our first summer. I said, AJ, let's rent. And he's like, no. Finally, he said yes.
He's one of those guys, man. He'll
is
do it.
Like one of our hottest renters. Like that car makes everybody. I think it's the top grossing car this year. Out of everything.
Okay.
Which is impressive.
It's a blast.
It goes out half the amount of time. Well, that's not true. Like our Yukons do crazy, but that's to be expected. Anyways, so we all of year 1, we had no issues. We scaled. We brought in co-hosts. We had awesome people involved. And what a co-host is, for anybody who's listening, is you would own a car. Maybe it's an extra car. You're like, I want to sell it, but I've heard of this co-hosting with Drivify, so you give it to us. We figure out a profit split based on like the class of the car. So like if it's a lower end car and it's gonna be gone all the time, we ask for more of a profit split because it takes so much more labor cost to move it. Whereas if it's a higher performance car that's only gone a couple days a week instead of like 5 days a week, we give you a little bit more profit split because it's less work for us. It's motivating. And so
I've always wondered how you decide your profit splits, because like I know in some instances, like, so what's your range of profit splits? Are you allowed to discuss that?
I will discuss this angle of which when a co-host comes to me, I always ask for 50-50. And then from there, pending the mutual beneficialness to each party, we will land somewhere else. But I would say that on average, the owner of the vehicle or the co-host ends up taking majority. Because there's usually value in a car that they're bringing to us that we don't want to buy or tie up money in, that will help our image look like we're growing. You know, Drivify started with 4 cars a year and a half ago, and we've got over 33 cars now. So if you do the math, that's like adding 2 cars a month. Nobody can afford to be buying 2 cars a month. But that's because of co-hosts, right? So it's helping that image grow and build. And this is Sin Win, who is from Liquid Molly, who's giving a car away that I helped coordinate. So do we want to answer this and see what he says?
Go for it.
Hello?
Hey, so kind of a problem.
Oh.
I'm in a gated neighborhood, and I cannot get in.
All right, one sec.
Oh. Okay, we're in.
All right, Are you have fun? Have fun. Oh, I guess we're not a part of the experience. That could be one of my 3 cutouts that you can do for
I'm
me.
definitely cutting that. Just putting out the code on the internet.
Well, you don't know which neighborhood he's in, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Dude, there's that one guy on TikTok that like finds people. Have you ever seen this? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about?
He's like, hey, how much do you make? Huh? Or what do you pay for your mortgage?
No,
and
no,
he's
no,
like,
this
X amount. It's like, oh, can I see?
No, it's like somebody will post like a normal video on Facebook, and then somebody will tag this dude, and then he'll be able to figure out where they're from with just the hints from the video.
Dang.
I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure he could figure out what neighborhood this is. But so explain.
Okay, sorry. Back to Drivify.
No, but do you want to explain what
Yes.
that was about?
Okay, so I am waiting on a phone call. This is why I've been checking my phone for those of you who have been watching. Sebastian, CEO of Liquid Molly USA, and Sin, who I know from marketing, were a part of the Banging Gears production in February. Mm-hmm. There was this PA, which in the world of film is kind of like the guy who does everything you ask. And it's not like a significant role where you're holding the camera, pushing record. It's like, I need batteries right now, so start running. And he did an amazing job, and he was super awesome. He had just graduated film school and was kind of looking for a job, so this was like internship hours. I don't even know how he got connected to the show, but he was super helpful to me and then my team. And then Sin, who works for SYNN, Sin, who works for Liquid Molly, kind of took note and was like, dude, this kid is like grinding and hustling. And Travis is a really cool kid. He's 20 or 21, just beat cancer like a year ago. So he's like a cancer survivor, had a hard life, trying to do the film thing, which unfortunately, like being a filmmaker is also a hard life. It doesn't, you don't really make a lot of money unless you can figure something out. And I had no idea, but Sebastian and Sin decided to build an S2000 that went to SEMA, and then they're going to give it to him, just like a giveaway. And so they called me 2 weeks ago when I was traveling for Bang Gears. Like, have you talked to Travis? And I said, no. I said, well, we're trying to do this giveaway, but I can't like explicitly say, when are you home so I can give you this car. So I became like this middleman trying to coordinate like, hey, you don't know this is happening, but I'm sending you a package is basically what I said, but you have to sign for it. So like, are you here? And it's today, Wednesday at whatever time. And so that's what we're trying to coordinate. And yeah,
That's super cool.
I thought it was sick. I was like, dang, dude. You put a lot of thought into that. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know Travis's story, and they were explaining it to me, the Liquid Molly guys. I was like, oh, that's special. That's cool. So another reason why I like the automotive world. You know, we're all tough macho guys most of the time talking about how much PSI or turbo makes or whatever, but at the end of the day, most of us are human, and we go out of our way to do a lot for our other car friends.
Dude, it's ridiculous how much people take care of each other in this community. Like, you know, you've done so many things with like Triet. Rat's done so much for me. AJ as well. You know, it's like
we could sit here and like talk for 2 hours about all the people that helped us do things.
Get where we're at. Yeah, like the list is never ending. Like, you know, you talked about Jeff Storms earlier
Yep.
and all this. Like the same. Like, there's so many people that have taken on, you know, unofficial mentorship roles.
Yeah.
And it's like literally it could be an hour of just writing down like, oh yeah, here's how this person helped me by getting a cheeseburger. Like, you know, it's like it's wild. But
it's crazy.
so that's really, really cool. So hopefully they call you back on that.
If they call me back and say, hey, thanks for the car, I'll be like, well, it wasn't me. I was just happy to be a part of the coordination, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's what that was.
That's awesome that you're able to like. It's kind of like looking through what's the word I can like a crystal ball. Like,
Sure.
Like again, like we alluded to earlier in the episode. Like you're like a few years ahead of me. It's like it would be awesome to be in that side of the, or on that side of the table in a few years.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't have the year that I've had, but it's been
Oh, I've heard some of these.
it's been a great learning year. I think what I learned in this year of business, for circumstances in or out of my control, it was like I sat down in a college course, and it was a 10-year course that someone pushed fast forward at 10x speed, and I just like ingested this, and I was like, wow, okay. So now, like, very excited for next year, and there's some cool things kind of in the works, which I'm excited about. But sometimes I'm an optimistic guy, so like there's a lot of bad, but I see why it was good to experience it, which I'm excited about.
The silver linings, kind of.
Right. And so now it's like always trying to be conscious about what is next and how do I approach it with this new mindset or thought process. And
Well, it's like this one thing that goes horrifically wrong. It's like it prevents from the next 10 things going wrong.
Right.
It's like you get expanded. Like it's kind of like a spider web. Like this whole new world opens up from one fuck up. It's like, all right, cool. Let's not do that ever
right.
again.
And it wasn't. You can always blame yourself for something, and there's things that maybe I could have done differently, but there's things that were so far out of my control. If it wasn't this, it would have been the next.
Yes.
Right. At some point it was going to happen. And, so yeah, we're excited. I'm excited for the future. I'm a futuristic thinking though.
You can never avoid every single landmine. It's impossible.
And you can learn from it. I mean, there's a lot of I guess I learned the value in like a little bit less of like flying by the whim of my seat, because like that's kind of the person I am. It's like, dang, we got a big budget. Let's reinvest everything, right?
That's kind of where I'm at right now.
And it works so well. And I sometimes will sit back and be like, I really don't know how I got to where I am and the people that I've met and the things that I'm filming and the cool experiences that I'm having. But then I think about like actionable steps that I took, and maybe some are risky and maybe some are not, or maybe I wish I would have pushed harder for X, but I just laid back and kind of hung out. And
it's tough.
so I think something I struggle with is I compare myself to where other people are at. I don't really take into account the time it took them to get there, but like in the realm of car people right now and today, like November 15th, 2023, I look at where I am, I look at where you are, and I look at where like, I don't know, Step Studios is. And it's like, oh gosh, like Step Studios is 30 years ahead of me. Like I should be doing what they're doing. But then I have to think like they've already gone through 30 years that I haven't gone through yet to get to that point. But like on today, at this second, someone's doing better than me and I need to be there too.
It's a cool snapshot too, because like when you listen back or even watch the highlights from this in like 5 years, it's gonna be wild to like look back on it. Like I love seeing my stories from like 6 years ago or 5 years ago. It's like, whoa, like here's the day I went on Crown Rally or whatever.
Yeah. And I've liked we have this app called Time Hop on our phones, my wife and I. And like my camera roll, I've been an iPhone guy since like the first iPhone. So my camera roll dates back to like before my wife and I were dating. There's like 40,000 pictures on there or something. It'll be like Time Hop like 13 years ago on this day, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I look like a child.
Facebook does that, dude. Like every once in a while I'll screenshot one of them and be like, all right, 12-year-old me had a fucking point. It's so wild. Oh, dude. But yeah, no, the rally, especially last year, like when I was completely me on my own, that's the other thing. I love taking ownership of, like, because that's the thing is like, I used to love having business partners, but the thing is then you start deflecting blame and all this stuff. It's like when you own something, it's like you really find out who you are. So like when you said like you took 10 years of college and then just digested it, like,
oh bro, it was
fast forward,
just like, you know, like maybe you don't remember, but like VHSs.
Oh yeah,
and it's like you're watching TV with your parents, and there's like this swanky scene that you can't see, so they fast forward, and it's just like, and it like happens really fast, and you get through it. You know what happened, but you didn't really get to like understand what happened. But now you're on the other side of it, and you're like, oh, okay, so all of that happened, and now I got to digest that now. And it's okay. It's kind of how I think about it, I guess. It's
so wild, like especially like even if something happens, you don't like you said, it's like if you don't digest it within like the first year, like something will happen years down the line, and then you'll correlate it back to like, oh, that's okay. Yeah. It's so weird looking back like that. But Drivify.
Yes, Drivify.
That was a good detour that made sense.
So good detour. We'll continue on the string of bad luck. Second year of Drivify comes around. We're off to a hot start.
Get a little closer, by the way.
Second year of Drivify turns around, and we're off to a hot start, which is exciting because we're like looking at projections, and we're like, dang, this is wild. Like we kind of have access to these cars, which is great, but we're too busy to really enjoy them. But now what's happening is we're building a company around other people. We're building a company around us borrowing money from one person to have another person pay for it. So when it's paid off, we get it, right? And then it keeps generating revenue, or we sell it, or maybe one of us personally buys it. And so that's what's most exciting to me. But then we realized how bad things happen, or how fast bad things happen when a car gets crashed. Right. And so the first incident would have been March of last year. We had a drunk driver roll a GR86. Like slowest car known to man, rolled it over in Boston, fled the scene. The next morning, the Boston Police Department calls us, and they're like, hey, is this your car? And we're like, yeah. He's like, well, it took out a Comcast firewall box and went through someone's front yard and through their fence, and like, here's all the damages you owe, and like, where's the driver? I'm like, it's a rental car. I don't know anything. So then you got to, what happens is we have a car payment on this car. We're used to this car generating X amount of profit above that car payment. But now that it's down and you have to deal with insurance, which is like a 3-month process, it isn't generating the profits you're used to, and you're still paying for it. And then we had our 2-door Bronco burn down. And then we had our Yukon get hit. Then we had our Expedition get hit. And then there's a couple accidents that aren't wrapped up yet, so we won't talk about it. We had some exotic cars get hit. Some kid blew up the trans in the GTR. Someone another drunk driver rolled a Jeep. Did I say the Bronco burned down?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had over 30 incidents, of which were serious claims to insurance companies, which is where Travis, who basically runs Drivify for us, comes in, and I am thankful for the insurance system, but I hate how long it takes. Because what we learned is, like, when we're generating with every car that works and we're generating money, it's like powerful money that's coming in and out of the company. But as soon as like half your fleet's down, that's like bankruptcy money missing. Because it's like, we have people calling us to pay for these cars, but the cars aren't generating revenue, which we're not accounting for, because like we didn't have a big safety net built up because we've been buying cars. And based on year one, we had no issues, so we thought year two, Minnesota's a pretty safe market. It's not like Miami. We're not going to have drunk people crashing our cars, and that's a lie. Like, and so that was like, we had to take a step back and like, is this worth it? Because us as owners of an entity that if we couldn't make car payments, they're going to start coming after us. Obviously, banks, they're going to want their money. And I'm not, at a 28-year-old, in a position to like afford. I think we own 17 of the 30 cars. And like our monthly bills are kind of astronomical. And so, and that's just for car payments. Like, doesn't include, we don't pay for a building, because that's part of our relationship with Tint Pros as we're growing this company to get to a position where we can go and get a cool facility and kind of do the whole thing. So we learned that can turn bad extremely quick. So we put a halt on a lot of purchasing, which is why we kind of slowed down on social media, because we hadn't been buying anything or signing new people. We had to kind of renegotiate. I've been renegotiating with a bunch of lawyers, going everything top to bottom. Like we had 2 drunk drivers roll cars with passengers through somebody's yard. Like if the kid of the house that they rolled through was outside and we hit that kid, like how bad is bad? Like what are we looking at here? And so we've spent a lot of money in restructuring of the company, which I think will pay dividends long term, but we had to like slow a lot down. And that was going along with everything else with Bang Gears and other production stuff. I was like, oh man, this is a year of like, what came into 2023, I was like, this is going to be the best year business wise yet, right? In a lot of ways it still was, but in a lot of ways there was like tenfold growth, which is exciting, but
dude,
also bad. Like, yeah, when like,
well, to go from smooth sailing,
and the first accident was like, man. So I called this kid who rented our GR86. It was on Turo, which made it a pretty easy, claim to fight and get paid for. I called him. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "Did you roll a car last night?" And he's like, "No, I'm back home." I said, "What do you mean you're home?" He's like, "Well, I went out drinking with friends and I left the keys with one of my friends because my dog died, so I had to fly home late last night." And I was like, "Sure, I believe it. Police are involved, whatever." We had a tracker on that car, so we could tell what was going on. Police were involved, and basically we had to step back because the renter wouldn't give us anything. But I got hold of the renter and the police, and like I had them both on the line, and then I connected the calls, and then I hung up. So it's like, here, policeman, this is the guy who's driving. He's like, bye. Just let them figure that out. And the police guy was basically like, we have a tracker in the vehicle, and I'll give you one chance to be honest. And so the kid ended up fessing up that he was driving drunk, doesn't remember it, rolled the car, fled the scene, and all that stuff. And that was like the first, like, okay, this is bad. Then the Bronco burned down, and it was like a dad and his daughter who drove it to St. Cloud, sent us a message at like 6 p.m. They're like, something smells funny, but we just got to the hotel, so we're going to go inside and we'll just come back out tomorrow. We're like, sure, sounds great. He forgot his wallet in the car, so he goes inside, checks in, turns around, comes out, Bronco's on fire. Just like a Ford issue engulfed in flames, just on fire. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, these are now 2 scenarios so far outside of our control, because I'm confident in our ability to maintain these vehicles to a place that someone crashing should never be able to blame it on us for lack of maintenance or tire wear or whatever. But now having like freak accidents or like Ford's Broncos are catching on fire, like that's bad. And that was a 6-month process because we had the fire marshal involved. It had to go under investigation, and Ford, we still had to pay for our Bronco for 6 months Ford made us pay for it until it was settled. Insurance ended up saying, okay, we'll cover it because we can't figure out what's going on. Fire marshal, like the investigation was inconclusive, and we complained to Ford a lot. We got a pretty nice check for the car. So the good side of the crashes is we 90% of the time have made more money than what the vehicle is worth when a car is totaled.
But the downside is you didn't have income.
The downside is we didn't have income for, I would say, average 3 months. Now, the beautiful thing is when a car crashes and it's totaled, you hit insurance with either repair costs or total loss costs. And for however long it takes them to pay out, you can claim loss of use, which is a daily rental rate of that vehicle per day that they took to pay us. So if it took them 4 months to pay our insurance check, that was 4 months of revenue that we couldn't make. Oftentimes you have to negotiate a little bit, so it's not, 120 days, but it's like 80, 90 days. And then that's a nice big check that comes too. It's just a headache. It's a headache. And I'm very thankful for Travis, who handles it all, because he sits on the phone calls every day. I have memorized every insurance company's hold music at this point because he talks to them so much on speakerphone.
But I'm guessing you still have to handle a good portion of it, right?
So I do a lot of, I guess, back-end stuff. I carry a lot of conversations with potential co-hosts, people who want to rent. The website I built on Squarespace, but it takes a lot of time to just kind of keep it updated. Turo takes a lot of back-end nonsense. I'm the one that runs the Instagram, so I'll take the flack for not posting religiously. But
I'm giving you flack.
yeah.
So basically Travis is kind of like running it then.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you call Drivify, you talk to Travis.
Gotcha. Okay, so then is he a full-time employee then?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so we have 3 full-time employees.
Oh, wow.
2
okay.
in Boston because we've got 8 cars in Boston, and we've
Okay.
got 23 cars in Minnesota. So 31 cars total,
Wow, okay.
I think.
Man, I got lost. I was going to ask something about there's just
Yeah,
so
because
many.
Ace is out there.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
Is he technically a full-time employee?
Technically, yes, but I just he has the Drivify Boston franchise.
Right.
Like it's his kind of thing, but it's our branding, if you will.
Yeah, he touched on that.
He was doing it prior.
Yep.
And then we wanted to get out there, and it just worked out.
It just worked out. Yeah, he was saying a little bit like how it's kind of nice to have you or Drivify own the cars, and he kind of manages it just a little easier on him.
Yes.
Because again, having a company own it versus an individual is just better.
Yes. And
imagine.
the issue that we have is so this January we'll be able to file taxes again, obviously, like everybody else. So we'll have 2 years tax returns, which should help a lot in lending.
Oh, okay.
Because as a startup company, you can't get lending under a business without co-signing by an individual. And an individual should never co-sign for a rental vehicle. Like my name, Jacob Stevenson, any of the partners, our names are not printed on the titles of any of the vehicles we own.
Okay.
Because as soon as that car crashes and somebody dies, lawyers will go after titled vehicle owner. It doesn't matter where it's registered.
Huh, okay.
So everything is registered Rent-MN only. So only the LLC can get attacked, of which then they could discover who owns that and then continue. But basically what we're working on with lawyers is the structure of the company, that there will be many walls for someone to penetrate to find out a real living person that they can target to make whatever money they want. So it will cost them a lot of money to get to that point.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That's one of the things that we're talking about with the rally situation is because you want to have as many of those walls as possible when it comes to liability. Because at the end of the day, it's tough, man. Like, who do you go after when it comes down to let's say somebody rolling a car and it's purely their fault, but then you still have to deal with all the litigation and bullshit of was there neglect on you as the renter or rentee or whatever?
Exactly. And so the lawyers put it in a really good way in one of our last chats, is that it is impossible to 100% alleviate any individual's person from liability of something that they own. It is very possible to make it extremely difficult and expensive, but in return, you also have to spend a lot to build that up. So, structures of a company, GoldenPeaks has a couple layers too, just because if the motor crane falls off the roof and it was rolling down the highway and this van full of a family like hits it and flips over like like the yeehaw truck with the wheel that falls off and like the car goes flying.
Yeah,
right.
Similar,
like you want layers and like I have insurances for insurance and like all that stuff. It's stupid, but it's necessary.
It's just the bigger you get, obviously, it's part of like growing the business. Like you just gotta add more layers to it. Because like me, I'm a very small little guy right now, so there's the chances of things going horribly wrong are very small. But as you grow and you have more employees and stuff, is your phone blowing up over there?
No. I just let my wife know that
you're in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah, whenever she leaves, I'll get ready to go too. But.
Yeah, that's my old co-host Sean's in town tonight, so like after this, like all right, we're gonna go grab some dinner or whatever,
nice,
because he's back from California.
California.
Yeah, how'd you enjoy California?
I really like California when I visit.
Yes.
I don't think I could ever live there, and I hate the traffic.
That's fair.
I hear taxes are crazy. I don't know anything about what California pays, and I know the state has rules that I don't always agree with. But as far as car culture goes, amazing. I love the car culture. I actually had someone ask me this question the other day, and it was like, Jacob, do you wish you would have, like when you decided you were going to film cars, move to California and do it? And I said yes and no, because I'm happy with the decision to kind of build Minnesota as the home base. It's small, and the exposure to certain vehicle kinds and craziness aren't abundant. But I didn't have, let's say, much competition here, right? Now, if I was the same kid in LA, I might have got stuck in a groove of like viral content or just trying to get out to shoot content for the internet and never learn how to turn it into a business, because I would be chasing the next crazy car, as opposed to like,
yes,
here I'm forced to try and convince businesses, we all are, to do work with us, because eventually I've shot every Lamborghini and I've shot every Ferrari, and it's like there's nothing new here.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's such a good point.
And so I think that if I had moved to California when I decided to film cars, my social appearance would be much larger, but I don't think my content would be, or the business and the content that it creates wouldn't be as effective as it is.
Well, it's kind of like after Monterey Car Week, you see like like 20 or 30 photographers go out to shoot like Schmee's Zenvo or whatever. It's like it's all the same photo from different photographers, but you know, I could see that being an issue if you were to live in California.
But I really like to visit, and it goes a long way, and I guess it shows like the relationships that I had even prior to Banging Gears, because I brought a lot of people to the show to be involved.
How many Minnesota people did you bring out there, by the way?
So we had Ratified, or Rat, Grady Erickson, Ryan Wheeler, John Wayne Faw, AJ Meta, Katie. Is that 6? I think only 6.
Yeah.
From Minnesota, let's say.
Well, then didn't you also have, you had, what's his name? Austin?
Oh, yeah, 7. Austin, sorry, I forgot about Austin.
And then you guys had your R8 out there.
Our R8 was out there. Asa drove it, so technically you could call that 8.
Yeah.
And then I introduced a few other people to the show, and I'm forgetting their names off the top of my head.
How many total cars are going to be on Banging Gears? It's got to be like 30.
So we'll talk about production. How about that?
Sure.
Because there's certain things that we're working with the studio to clean up to, like, make a TV show, right? So there's things that I can't talk about, let's say.
Yeah.
The show was based around 84 people, 84 cars. So we had 14 episodes. 2, like 1v1, so 2 people per class, 6 people in an episode. And it was always tuner versus exotic. We tried to pair them as evenly as possible. So like John Wayne Faw, full bolt-on, and new gen NSX against like a stock 620 or 600 LT, right? So around the road course, John was a little bit slower, but on the drag strip, John was like right there. Grady Erickson's R35 carbon fiber GTR went against a new 765 all carbon body car. So like that was kind of cool to see. It's a lot of pairings like that. Katie Pajeska in her Supra at the time made a little bit less than it does now, but we put her against a stock 720 with a crazy body kit, so like it had a lot of drag. Okay. I mean, you can kind of tell that like a lot of the exotic cars were better at the road course, and a lot of tuner cars just creamed the drag strip, right? And that was the basis of the show, to kind of show both tuners versus exotics.
I would love to. I can't wait to watch it and see, because like that's the thing. Like,
I will say, when we left production, I was like, this is gonna be interesting. because we essentially, just do the math. We had 84 cars. I had 2 days to film everything for every episode. So when episode 1 came in, that was 6 people. I only had 2 days to film all their racing, all their interviews, all their B-roll, all their chats with the hosts. And basically it was day 1 was morning at the drag strip, and then we did interviews and B-roll on the driving. And then day 2 was morning, more interviews and B-roll in the afternoon, and drag strip at night. So then every other day we were up late and up early, if that makes sense. And then the days kind of kept flip-flopping. And on every third day, the next 6 people would come in. So we had 19 days licensed at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway to film 84 people. And like, we got a lot done in 19 days. Maybe it wasn't our best work, but like that's what we were given. And like this show being a like self-funded show by the guy who helped bring it to life. The budget, the racetrack was the main, I think, constraint with like timing. It's why we filmed in February, because it was cheaper and it was available. But we could only get 19 days. I would have loved to have like 29 days just to do better work. But when we cut episode 1 and I got to watch it back for the first time, I was like, this is actually good.
Yes.
Like I was pleasantly surprised, and I always set my expectations low when I go back into post after shooting something, that it's like, I should have done all of this, and then I start cutting it and it's good. But the studio that's doing post on the Banging Gears, I was pleasantly surprised. So season 1 is pretty much cut. We obviously just shot all of the pickup shots, so they'll go back in and add more oomph and story and drama, and we tried to get drivers to kind of nitpick each other's cars. So
There's something to be said, though, because you, especially doing this as long as you have, for decades and decades, there's something to be said about
less than a decade.
Yeah, the level of quality that you kind of hold yourself to, though, is because like you on a bad day is still production level quality.
I hope so.
Well,
me on a bad day is me like, I should have balanced this gimbal better. It's fine.
Right. And it's,
it's out of focus. We'll just throw some Gaussian blur and make it artsy.
That one's unforgivable. When it's out of focus, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, a little bit.
If it's a little shaky, no big deal.
Yeah,
But
warp stabilize.
Yeah, pretty much. But if it's out, dude, when it's out of focus, oh my God.
Sometimes I'll get in post and be like, this shot is really out of focus, isn't it? And it's like, yeah. So then I'll use it in like really quick cuts, because it might be something that's still visually cool, but like if it can be 12 frames or less, so it's half a second.
I think that's part of developing as like a video editor. And again, I'm nowhere near the level of like you or even Jason, but I feel like as you edit, like you kind of leave stuff to the side, like this might have a use later.
Yeah.
So super
and
helpful.
Everybody edits differently, and I took on an editorial system, and I'll give it out because I don't really care. It's not anything special.
I'm listening.
I input all the footage. I don't care how it's organized on the hard drive. I obviously, like when I first started, I would be like camera A, gimbal A, and like stick it in there, and like tripod A, and like stick it in there and organize the files on a hard drive. I don't care about that anymore. I just take a bucket, name it footage, drop all the clips there. As long as they're not duplicated, I don't need more folders. Open Premiere. Do you edit in Premiere?
Yes.
Okay, good. Open Premiere, import footage. I make my first timeline, and I call it string out. Right? This is where I take all the footage, I drop it on the timeline. It's called string out. And then I'll go through, I won't watch it, but I'll use the up and down keys to kind of hop through, and I'll organize the string out in like chronological order or events that happen. So like if I have 4 cameras rolling, but we're all filming different things, when those clips come together, they're going to be all mixed up, right? And once it's organized, I duplicate the string out, call it selects. This is where I get like my bucket of popcorn. I push spacebar, I sit back and play, and I just start cutting out anything that's not usable or I will never touch. And then that will take, let's say it's 10 hours of footage down to 5 hours. And then I'll duplicate the selects, and I'll call it version 1. And I'll just start deleting and moving and deleting, because I can always go backwards and pull something that I've missed. If you take the time to first organize and then first select what's good, then the rest of the editing process is so fast. Because when I started, it would be like in Premiere, I'd open my clip in the source finder, and I'd do like in, out, grab this section I like. And if I delete it, it's like, oh no, like where is it? And then when I do revisions for clients, I'll have version 1 cut. They'll give me revisions, duplicate version 1, call it version 2. So then when they're like, can we go back to how it was the first time? I just click on the first one, and
Saves a lot more time. Then you have to go.
it's a lot more time up front, but it saves a lot of time. And then in like if you can establish a system, a post system, when you have to open a project from 2 years ago, it's like all familiar
Oh, okay, I see.
because you just are doing the same thing over and over.
What are you editing on? Like, do you have
Adobe
No. I mean, do you have a?
Premiere.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm on Team Premiere, though. I love
Creative
using
Cloud.
CapCut for highlights and stuff. But
Yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't never tried it.
dabble with it. It's just. I still use Premiere for like the heavy lifting and then like the more intricate stuff.
Yeah.
For my purposes, my workflow is so much better. Like we're talking saving hours.
Nice.
But anyways, so no, are you on Apple?
Yep, I'm a Mac guy. Always have been.
I've heard that
never
it's-
will switch to PC.
I've
Don't
heard
even
that-
try.
I'm going to compliment you, Dick. No, okay. No, I heard that Apple is like really well optimized for Adobe product.
So that happened this year, I believe, when the M1 chip was announced last year. Was it? Or maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I went in and I ordered 3 maxed out M1 MacBook Pros, like 2 terabytes onboard storage, the 64 gigabytes RAM, the 32 gigabytes, whatever, like max to the max. I think there were $6 or $7 grand each. Then I learned that Apple has a small business lease program. So I pay like $375 a month, maybe, for 3 computers that I only lease for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, I just turn it in against the next new computers.
Oh, so you're telling me I can go get one, lease it for $175 a month right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't quote me on the price, but
Right,
yes.
yeah.
And so when those computers came, we had to wait 8 months for it because the M1 chip delays, whatever. Once they showed up, we opened Premiere for the first time, and I was like, this is insane. Like red footage, no problem. Sony footage, no problem.
Really?
That DJI, like pesky drone clips, you put it in there, you try and watch it start skipping like ridiculously, no problem. And so that was amazing. Then I did some reading in Premiere's 2022 update or something like that. Was much more structured around max compatibility and using everything at the M1 chip. I'm not a tech guy. I've said this before. But I understand that Premiere was actually made a focus to run smooth on Macintosh. Up until then, I was on a 2017 MacBook Pro.
Which, I mean, I've always loved, like, I used MacBooks, like, in high school, and they were super efficient. Like, because, like, even right now, like, I just feel like everything's, like, I spent, like, $2,000 on my rig when I built it, you know, COVID checks and all that.
Yeah.
I was fucking raking it in. But everybody was. But then I was just like, even now it's starting to slow down. Like, Lightroom is a bitch on my computer for some reason. Like,
Sure.
I don't remember it being this
And I'm
slow.
not a photo guy, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll play with Photoshop. I got to make thumbnails for YouTubers.
Do you do a lot of After Effects stuff?
Nothing like original creation.
Okay.
But I've got an awesome subscription to Envato Elements. And I'll go in and sort by After Effects files, and I'll search something like corporate lower thirds or like techie glitch titles. And then you can download an After Effects file that then is manipulatable. You can manipulate it and make it what you want. So I'll get something that's like on style or what my eyes want to see, so I don't have to create the actual animation. But then I can go in and modify and have it say and do what I want.
Just like a package that...
Outside of that, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, kind of like some like the audio websites we
Yes.
that we subscribe to. Artlist, for
Yep.
example.
Yeah,
is
I used
amazing.
Artlist for a long time. I'm a music bed guy now. But that's because clients pay for it.
Gotcha. Just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna see where we're at. Damn, dude, you want to guess how far deep we are?
2 hours.
No,
Hour 50.
57.
Oh,
Just had to be that guy.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're both very high energy people. Hopped up on 2 cans of very caffeinated drinks.
Jocko Go sponsored Monoxide Podcast today.
Yeah, it would be nice. It'd be
Oi.
This would be an awesome sponsorship, but yeah, dreams. But nonetheless, we can keep going and going and going.
We could talk forever.
Oh, easily. Which is, it's awesome because I don't think we've ever talked for a 2-hour period ever.
Yeah, you and I will always catch up at car shows or we'll text.
Yeah.
You know, I'm grateful to have been a part of your rallies prior to not doing rallies.
Right.
I thought it was awesome when you reached out and you were like, dude, I want to actually invest money in filming.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thanks for like,
still have
thinking
the
of
drive,
me. Like,
yeah.
I want to do a good job for you. And I sent Ben and Grant, and a lot of your ralliers had nothing but good things to say about their ability to capture a lot of stuff. And hopefully you looking at the footage would say the same thing.
It was amazing. That's where I had to. First of all, it was really cool to see how you guys' process worked. But I still think, even though it's almost 2 years later or a year and a half later now, I do think I still owe those ralliers like a full-on documentary style edit because I did have like
you got a lot of footage,
recap.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, when I went out of business, I'm like, all right, well, there's no need for this. But nonetheless,
Well, it hurts to like have to go back and reminisce too.
I don't care about that. It's a lot of work. That's
Wow.
the thing. Because that's the thing.
I love editing though.
I know.
Are you
but
an editor, or do you just do it because you have to?
I love editing. I love doing my highlights. They're a
Okay,
blast.
yeah.
But and I do. It's just the thing is like prioritization, right?
Sure.
Like right now, I got to focus on the things that actually make me money. Whereas,
Yep.
Going back and doing that, it's like, oh boy. But no, that's the thing. I wanted to full send it with you guys because I'm like, I'm
love it.
trying to put on the best rally possible.
Yeah.
Who do you get other than Golden Peaks? Like, I tried to get Jason at first, but the thing is, he wasn't 18 yet and not willing to travel across the country quite yet.
Sure.
That was a part of it. But then I was like, fuck you, Jason. I'm going to full send it, So,
Yeah, Jason.
yeah. So I don't think he doesn't even want to be on this podcast.
Oh, Jason.
He
For me, would you come?
I don't think he's,
Does he listen?
I don't think
I
he
hope
does.
he listens to this.
I think he's nervous he's going to fuck up and say something he shouldn't, which is fair. But,
Jason, it's okay.
But at the end of every episode, I like to ask this question to get an idea of who you are as a person. Are you a good person or a bad person?
Oh, okay.
The question goes like this. You have to choose a daily, a track car, and a show car. You have an unlimited budget. The only limitation is your imagination. So this includes all mods, whatever, go crazy. So take your pick at which one you want to do. A lot of people struggle with the daily.
I was going to say a daily, a show car, and a track car.
Yes.
Track car would be my Dodge Viper ACRE.
Okay, what color?
I don't really care.
Okay, that's
I
what
think
we're talking about then.
in an ideal world, like black, no stripes, or blue with white stripes. I really liked the matte yellow that Brandon had that I drove. For a show car, I don't know, because like my viewpoint on cars are like, can I film with it? Right? Like that's just how my brain works. So like not everybody would pick an E90 M3 to build it into a camera car, but I would, but I also daily it. So I think, okay, my daily would be an Alpina XB7. Big ol' X7 Alpina model. And then my show car, unlimited budget.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Because then you start thinking about like hypercars or
I mean,
modding
yeah, I know, but
hypercars.
are they show cars? That's what I'm asking. That's
Well,
why
it
I
can
asked
be
my
surely like a
question.
Stancy Koenigsegg,
A Stancy Koenigsegg.
on bags, bro. Psh, psh.
Okay. You know what? Because I'm a wholesome individual and I'm not going to spend fake money. Track car, Dodge Viper ACR-E, full extreme build. Daily would be the Alpina XB7, and show car would be some crazy, like wide body build Audi R6 Avant, like June Olsen style. Not saying that that's like realistic in my life I'm living now, but like I also try to think of something that like, what would Jacob actually build instead of just
Yeah.
like piss away on a video
What's your
game?
favorite wheel brand? Do you have one?
Probably BBS.
So you,
I really like CHRs, CH-Rs, RIAs are sick. E88s everybody likes, but I would probably try some other wheels before I would get those. I've got Ankies on the M3 right now. I like those. NTO 3s or 1s. I always mix it up. What about you? Or is this another one of your questions to see if I'm...
no, I'm just curious.
Okay.
I'm trying to incorporate, because that's the thing. Like,
So I'm really bad. I like... In my head, I can kind of see the style of something and like what I would want it to look like. But when it comes to like name brand parts,
yeah,
I'm bad with that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I get that.
Like I'm not gonna, some of these show cars are wild. Like they have to use this person's carbon fiber and that person's tire and this
Yeah.
person's suede. And like, I don't think about it in that detail, I guess. My NTO 3s on the car right now were kind of like I bent my ZCPs that came from factory, the competition wheels. We were getting ready for a rally and I needed wheels like now. And so my friend from his track car had a squared set of these and I said, that'd be great. For all the rallies we do, squared setup on the M3. Like I can just keep rotating tires and get a little more life out. Bought them kind of on a whim and threw them on. I was like, I don't know if I like how this looks. And then I didn't know that they were Anki and I didn't know that they were like Japanese. And then I didn't know that there was like this group of people that likes Japanese wheels on German cars.
Yeah.
And now I like them because everyone's like, that's so sick. And I'm like, sure. So they've just kind of, I've had them for almost 2 years now. They just kind of stayed.
Speaking of Japanese wheels on German cars, like seeing what's it called, Derek Waddell Nightfall visuals when he put the TE37s on the Z4.
Yeah. I liked that.
It looked cool.
Yeah.
The stock wheels look good on that car
I
too.
did say when I bought the M3, I wouldn't put TE37s on it because everybody does. Like
Yeah.
the joke in the forums is like the E9X M3 starter pack is like the GT4 front lip the TE37s and something else, like one of those tall RTD shifters.
Yeah.
But it's like the starter pack. Everybody looks like that.
Well, sweet dude. We'll definitely get you back on here one more time.
Yeah, we can talk about more specifics. I feel like I just like regurgitated a bunch of nonsense.
There was so much, dude. Oh my God. Like, that's the other thing. I need to start bringing a fucking notebook these things because, especially for like follow-up guests, because we cover so many things. And it's like, all right, we could definitely talk another hour about that.
Right. You could create like series almost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of series, I need to continue going through Driveify cars.
Yeah, you let me know.
I'm going to reach out to Travis. I just have been so bogged down. Like, I'm 8 episodes behind on highlights.
So we've got winter tires on the GT3, R8, GTR, and Huracan. I think we'll put winter tires on it.
Here's a question.
So, like, most of the sports cars will run through the winter. They don't do anything, but they're available.
What happens when somebody, like, for whatever reason, takes the GT3 out and does donuts in the snow with it? Is there any issue with that?
Depends if you cause damage or I look at the tracker while you're doing it.
Gotcha. But like, let's say like the tires are toast by the end of it because.
We'll hit you with the tires. We'll try and go after you. We do. We look at that stuff, right? We've got a tire gauge that we take a picture of in the back of the tires. And if you've done 1 or 2 burnouts and it didn't shave anything off and like all we can maybe see is a little bit of boiling like on the edge of the tires, it's hard to try and fight that. But like when they come back corded and we know that we sent it out with like 830 seconds, that's easy because we got photos of all that.
Yeah. Do you have tire insurance or no? Or do you just go after the full amount?
No. Yeah. I would just hit you with like, hey, these were Michelin P4S's and they're $500 a piece and that's what you're going to get invoiced for. So when people rent with us privately, we take card information, right? It's just part of it. Depending on how old you are or if we get a fishy feeling from you, we'll take a deposit and that deposit's kind of a safety buffer too. But we'll basically hit you with, 4 or 5 attempts, whatever's legal to say you owe us X. Otherwise, this is what will happen. And if it's not a lot of money, we just won't rent to that person because they always come back anyways. Like, I want the Porsche again. And it's like, well, you got an outstanding balance. We're willing to rent to you, but you got to settle up first.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's pretty interesting. Like, we're not mean about it. I know how I feel when I get into like a cool rental car. I gotta play with it, but you gotta play with it respectfully. Right. Not that
flashbacks to banging gears driving the Beamer.
Oh man. I did say so. I don't think he would ever listen to this. Cody, his last name is Vegas, actually. Where am I going with this? I rented an F80 from him because I had traveled to Vegas probably 5 or 6 times scouting for banging gears, and I found this blue Yas Marina blue F80 M3 and just kept renting from this guy. And so I hit him up. I said, hey, we're 1 car short on the show. Can I rent this for the duration of the show? And it's going to be on the show. But it's going to have to do burnouts. It's going to go down a drag strip and it's going to race. And he was like, and I was like, just like, I'll pay your rental fee and you let me know what extra would make it worth. He's like, buy me a new set of Sport Cup 2s. I said, sweet. So I Venmo'd him for the Sport Cup 2s. We had the car the whole time and did a lot of donuts, and it's in the TV show. And
okay.
So I haven't been back to rent from him, so hopefully he would still rent to me. But we took care of the car. It didn't break. It didn't blow up. The tires were gone for sure, but outside of that.
Rental Rocket.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Not your actual address.
So you can come to my house. No. I'm on Instagram, GoldenPeaks Productions. You can find our silly behind the scenes page, GoldenPeaks BTS. Also YouTube and Facebook. Driveify is like Spotify, Driveify. And then if you were to go to our website, it's drive-ify.com. And then you'll probably see my ugly face in both places.
Sweet, and I'm excited for banging gears and all that.
I am too.
I'm
I think
really
when that
excited.
comes out, it should be 2024.
Okay. Ooh,
So
okay.
once I find out more, I'll start making announcements. And
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Yeah.
Like all the people involved in the show will be posting about it.
Of course, yeah, it's gonna get crazy. The internet's gonna
We
get
got to get
taken
that
over.
Instagram page back up and running because we were taking the internet by storm for a while.
Yeah, I was surprised on how limited it's been. So, are you managing that page then?
I am logged into it.
Okay.
I can manage it.
Gotcha.
But as
Okay.
we're dealing with like cutting what season 1 looks like and where it will go
Yes.
and the legalities of like binding a show to go for sale. Once all of that is set in stone, then it becomes very clear how to market it.
That
And
makes
so
sense.
because
Okay.
it's not
Yeah.
clear, like it's just kind of
Just
been
chilling.
dead.
Yeah, that's fine. As for me, you guys have all found me on Monoxide Everything. Make sure you're going to monoxide.com, subscribing to the newsletter. I do have some exciting stuff that Trevor is working on that I will be dropping here soon, amongst other things. A little bit of everything, honestly. But yeah, just make sure you're following everything on monoxide.com. My Instagram is where I post everything. Facebook. I don't know. I don't have a ton of things. Even though I don't have the banner yet, I do want to say thank you to Raise a Hood for becoming the first official sponsor. So be sure to check them out at raiseahood.com. More official marketing or whatever coming on that in the future. But for the time being, just give it a quick peep. And Jacob, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and see y'all next time.
Thank you. And Jocko should sponsor this also. This stuff is pretty good.